Good evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We're here to bring you a live update, some live coverage tonight. Increasing signs that President Trump and the Trump administration might try to take over Greenland. Might this really happen? A lot is coming out of the Trump administration, President Trump, other officials. We got reporting on this happening. So we want to bring you an update to this, about this. Also going to talk about Venezuela. We got some updates on Venezuela. We're going to talk about that. We're going to focus on Greenland, but we're going to talk about Venezuela as well. Also, hey, just a heads up, tomorrow morning, is it 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? Let me just make sure here. I think it's 10 a.m. We are going to be on tomorrow morning because tomorrow at 10 a.m., the House Oversight Committee is having a hearing on oversight of fraud and misuse of federal funds in Minnesota, Part 1. So we will be on tomorrow to cover that hearing live. The hearing's at 10, but we'll come on before 10. So just a heads up, we're going to be covering that. And let's see here. Let's get into this. We'll take a poll tonight. We'll take some of your comments on the year. Hey, I really appreciate our moderators. We got Beth Mythical here. Moderating over there on YouTube. And we have Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. And we have Good Luck Duck and Surly Dev over there on Twitch. And on Facebook we have... we have Kay Lowry Body is over there. Thanks, Kay. And little experiment tonight. I don't know how this is going to go. We actually are on TikTok right now, Agenda Free TV on TikTok. I don't know how it's going to go. So this might be our only stream of the year on TikTok. But for now, we're on TikTok. I got that Fires moderating for us over there. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. That's an open question. But first, so if you ever want to see us on TikTok, tonight might be your one chance in the next few minutes. Hey, thanks for your support. We have Anna Maria, our member. Thanks, Anna. Joner Games, thanks for the membership. The Fiend 83, You Rock FR. Jude Ann, our member. Thanks, Jude. Sober Pal Grunt. Tommy, for being a member. Thank you. And also over there on Twitch. Hey, thanks Massachusetts Mike for subscribing. Thanks Toolman Tim for your support on Twitch. I don't think we've done yet a stream on Greenland yet. I don't think we've talked about, well, actually, we might have done one where we talked about some of Greenland. Anyways, I don't think we focus on it on a stream yet. But things are really ramping up with the Greenland story. So I want to cover this. Hey, thanks to Tsiki over there on Twitch. Also, Ronald Doa over there on YouTube for your support. And hang on a minute. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into everything. Oh, and thanks to Boston Brad as well. Boston Brad says, all of this is making my anxiety rise up. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into Greenland, and then we're going to take your comments on the air. We're also going to talk about Venezuela, and there might be some other updates that come out while we're on the air. Real quick, before we start anything, this is one of our sponsored broadcasts. I really appreciate our sponsor, Gold Safe Exchange. So let's hear quickly a word from me about our sponsor, and as soon as that's done, we'll get into the Greenland updates. You know, a number of people these days are investing in gold, silver, and other precious metals as a way of diversifying their portfolio. If you're interested in purchasing some precious metals, one way you can do that is with a precious metals IRA. This is an IRS-approved type of IRA in which your savings are invested into gold or other precious metals. If that kind of thing sounds interesting to you, if you want to know more, you can reach out to the folks at Gold Safe Exchange. They specialize in gold IRAs and other precious metals IRAs. Gold Safe Exchange puts a priority on customer service and transparency. They've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. They have a price match guarantee. If you find a lower quote, they'll beat it. And they explain their processes in clear language so their clients know what's happening with their money. Also, they abide by all government security and safety standards. So if you're even a little interested in opening a gold IRA or other precious metals IRA, call Gold Safe Exchange at 800-341-6727 for a no-pressure chat. Or visit them on the web at goldsafeexchange.com/agenda-free. And mention Agenda-Free TV when you reach out to access a special offer where you could get free gold or silver with qualifying purchases. All right, let's get into the Greenland story. Let's get into this. There's some new reporting today on this. First of all, look at this. Trump discussing how to acquire Greenland. U.S. military always an option, White House says. Remember, Greenland is a autonomous territory that's part of the Kingdom of Denmark. An autonomous territory that's part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Hey, oh, by the way, quick thanks. Goxbirds. Thanks, Goxbirds. Goxbird says, we have unilaterally funded and defended NATO, North America, and Europe for decades. If they want to war over a chunk of ice, so be it. Hey, thanks, 86 GOP Forever. That's very kind of you, by the way. Thanks so much, 86 GOP Forever. That's very nice of you. Also, thanks, Mitchell Pilot, for your support. Mitchell Pilot highly doubts the U.S. military would force a takeover of Greenland. Mitchell Pilot does not like the administration's use of ambiguous military language with Greenland. All right, let's get into this. Let's get into some updates from today. Thanks, SG, our member, by the way, over there on YouTube. All right, Trump discussing how to acquire Greenland. U.S. military always an option, White House says. I guess I should show you on a map. Before we do anything, I should pull out a map and just show you Greenland. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's see here. I'm pulling it up right now. Just to get everybody on the same page. Here's our Google Maps. Here is our Google. Oh, there's Greenland. Well, we got to take the clouds away. It's going to be confusing with the clouds. There we go. Oh, there we go. Right there. Okay. Now, there. So there it is up there. See Greenland right here? There. There's the U.S. There's Iceland. There's Canada, Ireland, UK, Sweden, so forth. There's Greenland. Okay, now, let's see here. Here is, oops. Okay, Trump discussing how to acquire Greenland. U.S. military always an option, White House says. This is from Reuters. The White House said today that President Trump is discussing options for acquiring Greenland, including potential use of the U.S. military in a revival of his ambition to control the strategic island despite European objections. Remember, Denmark says it's not for sale. The official Greenland position is that they don't want to get taken over by the U.S. A number of European leaders have come out in recent days and said that this is a matter for Denmark and Greenland, not for the U.S. But anyways, that aside, you can see the White House is saying this today. Trump sees acquiring Greenland as a U.S. national security priority necessary to, quote, deter our adversaries in the Arctic region, the White House said in the statement. Maybe I can actually read, I don't know, I know they put out the statement to media, but maybe they put it on their website too. Then I can just show you the statement from their website. Otherwise, I'll read you the media. Where is the statements here? News. Briefings and statements? Yeah, I went to briefings and statements. It's not there. Anyways, but many news outlets have the statement. All right. Anyways, getting back to the Reuters article. The White House said Trump sees acquiring Greenland as a U.S. national security priority, a U.S. national security priority necessary to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. Said a White House statement today. Deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this foreign policy goal. And of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal, the White House said. That's from today. That's from today. Greenland has repeatedly said it does not want to be part of the United States. Leaders from major European powers and Canada rallied behind the Arctic territory on Tuesday, saying it belongs to its people. A U.S. military seizure of Greenland, from a longtime ally Denmark would send shockwaves through the NATO alliance and deepen the divide between Trump and European leaders. I'm going to show you some statements in recent days that leaders of Iceland and Denmark and Europe have made about this. We'll get to that. Our viewer Mary Beth thinks it's craziness. The strong opposition has not deterred Trump from reviewing how to make Greenland a U.S. hub in an area where there's a growing interest from Russia and China. Trump's interest, initially voiced in 2019 during his first term in office, has been rekindled in recent days in the wake of the U.S. arrest of Venezuelan President Maduro. Emboldened by Maduro's capture last weekend, Trump has voiced his belief that American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again and has put pressure on both Colombia and Cuba. He has also started talking about Greenland again after putting it on the back burner for months. A senior U.S. official speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss internal deliberations, said Trump and his advisors are discussing a variety of ways to acquire Greenland. Wow. Wow. All right, give me a moment here. Just give me a second here. Let's see. I want to stop and take some comments from you guys. Now, there was something I was going to mention, though. What was I going to mention? What was I going to show you or mention? There was something I had to show you. I'll remember it in a second. Okay, let's stop for a second, take some comments. But you can see this is a U.S. official said Trump and his advisors are discussing a variety of ways to acquire Greenland. And then a White House statement today said the president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal. And of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. I also think it's possible that some are seeing this as an even more serious possibility because just a few days ago, President Trump had the military go into Venezuela and attack Venezuela and capture the leader of Venezuela, right? Maduro. So there might be people who before thought like, oh, President Trump would never do anything like this. But they might have thought he would never do anything like send the military in to capture Maduro. Well, that's happened now. So I don't know if that's affecting people's view on this either. DJS says, very different situation. Let me take some of your comments about this and we'll get you more details. Let's see here. Jermaine Morgan says, we will take Greenland. Kristen says, who are our Arctic adversaries? President Trump has mentioned Russia and China. Yes. So we tried being on TikTok. What did I say? What did I say at the start of the stream? I said, if you ever want to see us on TikTok, you might want to go now. Over the years, I have tried to stream on TikTok, and they never allow it. Some other news channels do stream on TikTok. BBC News streams there. And this is for years. Every time I have tried, they don't allow it. And then they will, and I never get an explanation why. It's always some weird explanation that has nothing to do with the channel. And then I ask about it and I never get a response. So I figured it's been like 2 years and I'll try it tonight. Yeah, the stream lasted about 5 minutes. So anyways, well, a few of you got to see it. I tried. I try every once in a while. I just kind of forgot about it. And then I was like, you know what? It's been like 2 years. I'll try. But I mean, as I said, I told you guys, I said, if you want to see it, you better go. Better go soon. Anyways. I'll see if they sent me a purported explanation this time. But again, you do see other news streams, but they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't want it to be there. Nope, haven't gotten any notification. Just gone. It's just gone. Anyways, well, I'll look at it after. But there you have it. Okay, back to the normal, the usual platforms. All right, I was taking your comments here. Let's see. Angelic Slayer says, NATO are useless. Give USA Greenland. Steve Solar says, what are we going to put in Iceland to deter Russia or China? President Trump has talked about building the military up there. But as I'll show you, my understanding is that the current situation, Denmark, currently, I don't believe there's any kind of significant restriction on the U.S. building up military there. I believe the U.S. used to have many more bases in Greenland, and then many of them were closed. But right now, Denmark controls Greenland. But my understanding is that the U.S., there's no huge restriction to them building up military resources in Greenland right now. But we'll talk more about that as well. Svein Bain, our viewer, says, U.S. should be careful with their friends in Europe. There won't be many left if this continues. Michael Burmester thinks it's the minerals. Yeah, Taste Vim says there's already a base there. I think there's one base there. I'll get you some more details on that. All right, let's get some more. I want to just read you some more from this article here. Is Greenland for sale? By the way, the Wall Street Journal today is reporting that this came out today, late today. Oh, by a quick hold on. Quick thanks to Toyota Corolla, who says, as a Californian, can we put up a vote for whether or not we can join the Kingdom of Denmark? I'd love to have free healthcare. Thanks, Toyota Corolla. Thanks, that English gent, for your support. who says there's easier ways of getting the U.S. out of NATO, but I suppose forcibly taking territory away from your ally is one method. Thanks that English gent. Thanks the Schwitzdown. Thanks Spanky 1867 for your support. Who says, with Venezuela, it was claimed Maduro was captured for drug trafficking, but it was really for oil. We saw that today in Trump's message. Greenland is claimed to be for national security, but it's really for the precious metals. That's what our viewer Spanky thinks. Thanks also Goxbirds, who says, we can't allow a king to rule a country in our neighborhood. What happened to no kings? Thanks to John Procanon, who thinks the U.S. will take Greenland whether Russia or China likes it or not. The U.S. has a right to deter foreign adversaries, especially natural resources. Well, I think that the countries that really don't like it right now are Denmark and Europe, and the territory of Greenland don't seem to want it. But we'll see if it happens. Thanks, Jingle Dingle. Also, Eddie V, our member. Boston Brad, our member. Jiggle Jess, thank you. Bez from Oz, who says, are you guys ready to become the unpopular kid at school? Thanks, Anon Cognito, for being a member. And also Tatsiki over on Twitch, Notorious Rob on Twitch, CC on Twitch, Toolman Tim on Twitch. Thanks, Toolman Tim. And Chris VKC, and the Southpaw, and Monkey. Okay. Let me talk to you about what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. The Wall Street Journal is reporting tonight that Marco Rubio told lawmakers, in a closed briefing yesterday that was about Venezuela. Marco Rubio told lawmakers that the recent Trump administration threats over Greenland are not a sign of an imminent military attack. Marco Rubio said to lawmakers that the goal is to buy Greenland from Denmark, And Rubio said, according to the Wall Street Journal, that the White House is using this threatening rhetoric to pressure Denmark into negotiations to sell Greenland. Now, Maven's Picks, our viewer, says it's not for sale. That's what Denmark has said. Anyways, this is what Wall Street Journal is reporting this tonight. They're saying that Rubio said to lawmakers yesterday in a closed briefing that the threatening rhetoric coming out of the administration does not mean there's imminent military action, that President Trump wants to pressure Denmark into selling Greenland. And again, the White House statement today that came out about this was, I'm going to read it to you again. President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal. And of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. Let's see here. Reuters is reporting about Marco Rubio as well. Look at this. Is Greenland for sale, says Reuters. Those options, a senior U.S. official told Reuters Trump and his advisors are discussing a variety of ways to acquire Greenland. Those options include the outright U.S. purchase of Greenland, or forming a compact of free association with the territory, the official said. A compact of free association agreement would stop short of Trump's ambition to make the island of 57,000 people a part of the United States. The official did not provide a potential purchase price. The official told Reuters, a senior U.S. official told Reuters, diplomacy is always the president's first option with anything, and deal making. He loves deals. So if a good deal can be struck to acquire Greenland, that would definitely be his first instinct, said the official. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told lawmakers that recent administration threats against Greenland did not signal an imminent invasion, and that the goal is to buy the island from Denmark. And he said this during a classified briefing late on Monday for congressional leaders. Two sources familiar with the briefing said. The Wall Street Journal first reported Rubio's comment. So there you go. Reuters is reporting Rubio said that too. Let me just finish the bottom of this article, and then we'll take some more comments from you guys. Members of Congress, including some of Trump's fellow Republicans, pushed back against the administration's comments on Greenland, noting that NATO member Denmark has been a loyal U.S. ally. Let me show you this statement from Democratic Senators Jeanne Shaheen and Republican Senator Tom Tillis. I think both of them are not running next year. Am I right about this? Let's see. Let me just make sure. Jeanne Shaheen is not seeking re-election next year, and Tom Tillis is not seeking re-election next year. So I don't know if they feel a bit more free to speak out on things than they would otherwise. But Jeanne Shaheen and Tom Tillis put out a joint statement today. You can see here. Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Today, Senator Shaheen and Tom Tillis, bipartisan co-chairs of the U.S. Senate NATO Observer Group, issued a statement on Greenland and upholding America's alliance with Denmark. Now, I'll just show this to you. Here's the statement. The statement said, Denmark is one of our oldest and most reliable allies. Danish troops have fought and died alongside Americans in numerous conflicts, and Denmark was among the first to stand with us when NATO invoked Article 5 following the 9/11 attacks. Today, Denmark is significantly increasing its defense spending and remains a critical partner in Arctic security. In bold, it says, this is an ally that has earned our unwavering respect. When Denmark and Greenland make it clear that Greenland is not for sale, in bold now, the United States must honor its treaty obligations and respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark. Any suggestion that our nation would subject a fellow NATO ally to coercion or external pressure, in bold now, undermines the very principles of self-determination that our alliance exists to defend. The statement continues, with an active war in Ukraine and rising threats from Russia and China in the Arctic and Indo-Pacific, we cannot afford distractions or divisions within NATO. The strength of the transatlantic community lies in its unity, built on mutual respect and share the burden of, let me read that sentence again. The strength of the transatlantic community lies in its unity built on mutual respect rather than transactional rhetoric. Our alliances deter aggressors and share the burden of collective defense. In bold, we must stay focused on the real threats before us and work with our allies, not against them, to advance our shared security. As we confront the challenges of the 21st century, we do so alongside allies like Denmark, who stand with us by choice and not by compulsion. So that is a statement from Democratic Senator Shaheen and Republican Senator Tillis of the bipartisan co-chairs of the U.S. Senate NATO Observer Group. And then, one other thing I want to mention from this Reuters article, right at the bottom. At the bottom it says, then we'll take some more of your comments. Where did that go? Right at the bottom it says this. Wait. It says, administration officials say Greenland is crucial to the U.S. due to its deposits of minerals important for high-tech and military applications. These resources remain untapped due to labor shortages, scarce infrastructure, and other challenges. The U.S. official who talked to Reuters said, it's not going away, about President Trump's drive to acquire Greenland during his remaining 3 years in office. Wow. So we have the White House saying that the president and his team are discussing a range of options to acquire Greenland, that Trump sees acquiring Greenland as a U.S. national security priority to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. A U.S. official told Reuters Trump and his advisors are discussing a variety of ways to acquire Greenland, and he wants to do it during his second term. Wow. So what do you guys think? Let me take some more comments from you. Wow. Wall Street thinks it's a vanity project. Phoebus Apollo says we could absolutely mine the minerals. We just have to pay money and make a deal. But if we steal the minerals, it'll be cheaper. Zane Isaiah says, yes, wow. Moyoso says, we need Greenland to balance out the hot country of Venezuela with a cold one. 606 Bill Hilly says, if 60,000 Americans move to Greenland, can they vote to join the U.S.? The population is about 57,000 right now. The Murder Goblin says, so it's about independence from Chinese rare earth minerals and profiteering? Wow. Tatsiki says, if we have to start stealing other countries because of the Epstein files, whatever is in those files is way worse than any of us could imagine. One of our viewers, the Ace Buzz, says it's all about the resources. Man, what is going to happen with this? I mean, look, with Venezuela, there were questions as to, is President Trump really going to use the military there? But I mean, look, he said it again and again and again that there's going to be land attacks. This huge, enormous military force was moved near Venezuela. All the signs were there, right? All the signs were there. Now, I don't know what more signs you need than the White House literally saying, in a public statement, the president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important policy goal. Trump sees acquiring Greenland as a U.S. national security priority. I mean, they said it. That's a public statement. And President Trump himself has said it. He said it a few days ago. We were covering it. I should play you what he said again. Remember, he said it during the gaggle on Air Force One. I mean, it's not something being hidden. It's being said very openly. Where is the gaggle? Oh, they posted the video of it. Okay, hold on. I can play you the video. I can play you where he talks about it. I'm going to play it for you right now. Hang on. Before we had the audio, now we have the video. I'm going to find the Greenland part. Hold on. I got to just find the Greenland part. Where is this here? I have yet to find the Greenland question. Oh, I got it. I got it. I found it. Okay, I'm going to show you President Trump talking 3 days ago about Greenland. My point is that he's been very open about this. So it's not like, it shouldn't be a big surprise if there's some sort of, that the White House, I say it shouldn't be surprised if news comes out about further developments in the U.S. trying to take Greenland, given that President Trump has said himself, he said repeatedly, the U.S. needs Greenland. It should be part of the U.S. All right, now here is President Trump right now from 3 days ago talking about Greenland on Air Force One. Right here. All right, so there's that. You can see him right there. And then real quick, let me just really quick do this. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm going to make sure people know it's not live. This was January 4th. Okay, January 4th is when this video is from. Here it is. Here's President Trump. Now, there's a bit of airplane noise, so I'll turn it up, but there's a bit of airplane noise. Here's President Trump answering a question about Greenland and talking about Greenland on Air Force One 3 days ago.
Bridges that are falling down. Yeah, bridges that are falling down, nobody can go anywhere.
And on Greenland,
On Greenland now?
Yeah, on Greenland.
How did we come up to Greenland?
So, do you expect to take an action against Greenland?
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Let's talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine. We'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
On Venezuela, we talked so much about energy.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification?
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it. And they know that.
I think there's some concern that the operation in Venezuela will affect your relationship.
He's saying it. Where's that specific here? Hold on. Hang on. I just want to play this one more time. This part.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. We need Greenland from a national security.
Again, he's saying it. He's saying it. So you can't say he didn't say it. He said it twice, and he did that twice in that little "We Need Greenland" thing. He did it twice. I replayed it too, but so he's saying it. Wow, guys! All right, we're going to talk some more about this. I want to show you some of the statements that have come out from Europe, from Greenland in Europe on all this. In Denmark, remember, Greenland is a autonomous territory that's part of Denmark, part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Hey, thanks to Jesus C. Menandas, who says Donald is the most handsome president in history and is allowed to do whatever he wants because of that. Wow. Our viewer Eloso thinks Trump is telling everybody what's going to happen. Darb's mom says, let's call it negotiation tactics until it's too late. Give me a moment here. Yes, and as Maven's picks, our viewer mentioned, the only U.S. military base on Greenland is Bidufik. Oh no, Bidufik. Bidufik, it says. Bidufik, it's pronounced. According to Wikipedia. Bidufik Air Force, a Bidufik Space Base. It's a United States Space Force base based on the northwest coast of Greenland. Under a defense agreement between Denmark and the U.S., currently 150 U.S. service members are stationed there. After the U.S. significantly reduced its presence from 6,000 personnel during the Cold War. Under the agreement, the Danish national flag must be flown at the base to recognize the base is on Danish territory, but the U.S. is allowed to fly its own flag alongside the Danish flag on the facilities it operates. This is in northwest Greenland. And this is a view of the base from Wikipedia. No, right there. Thanks for mentioning that, Maven's Picks. Blinking J.I. says, never doubt Trump. Our viewer, Rustification, says, national security. Hey, thanks McKeel Lyles Barr and Dave Stevens for the Facebook stars. I really appreciate that. Maxie Puig says he is going to do it. Our viewer Barry Eisler thinks he will do this in the next couple of weeks, next couple of days or weeks. Juliana Martin says everybody's laughing until they're not. Helen Anderson says he is awful against Denmark, a friend. All right. Jeremy Wilson says we need Greenland. All right. I want to show you some of the comments that have been coming out from Greenland and Denmark and other European countries. Let's take a look at some of that, okay? By the way, thanks to our moderators who are here. We have moderating right now. Thank you, too. We have moderating Leslie Ladyhawk. Thank you for moderating. Kay Lowry Body. She is over on Facebook. Thank you. Margaret Riley as well. Also on Twitch, we have Big Ball of Yarn, Good Luck Duck, I Got That Fire, and Certainly Dev. And we have on Facebook, I thanked Facebook, Linda Belglary and Misha over on X. Tina Pope said Denmark asked for a meeting. I have, hold on a second. Let me pull up some of these comments here. Have some things to show you. This is a statement today from the Minister of the Foreign Affairs of Greenland. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Greenland, okay? Vivian Motzfeldt. Translate it. So just do it like this. The government of Denmark and the government of Greenland have now approached the U.S. State Department with a request for a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the near future. The strong request for a meeting is related to the U.S.'s claims about our country. Our country, unfortunately, the request for a meeting was not successful, although this meeting was repeatedly requested by our country. So they're saying that they and Denmark have asked Rubio for a meeting, but their meeting has not, that request has not been accepted. That was posted about 8 hours ago. There was a statement today from a joint statement from a number of European leaders that I want to show you as well. Here's this statement. This was posted by the Denmark Prime Minister's office. Check this out. If I can pull it up on the screen here. Joint statement on Greenland from the Denmark Prime Minister's office. They put it out, but a number of leaders made this statement. Statement by President Macron of France. This is yesterday, actually, yesterday. Today. This is today. I'm sorry, you know what? I forgot what day it was. Trump on the plane was actually 2 days ago, not 3 days ago. When I showed you that video of Trump on the plane, you know, this video right here, situation.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. We need Greenland from a national security situation.
You know, that video I just showed you, that was actually 2 days ago, not 3 days ago. All right, that being said, here is the statement. That came out today. Today's statement. Statement from President Macron of France, Chancellor Merz of Germany, Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, Prime Minister Tusk of Poland, Prime Minister Sanchez of Spain, Prime Minister Starmer of the UK, and Prime Minister Frederiksen of Denmark on Greenland. Here's the statement. The statement says, Arctic security remains a key priority for Europe, and it is critical for international and transatlantic security. NATO has made clear that the Arctic region is a priority, and European allies are stepping up. We and many other allies have increased our presence, activities, and investments to keep the Arctic safe and to deter adversaries. The Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland, is part of NATO. Security in the Arctic must therefore be achieved collectively, in conjunction with NATO allies, including the United States, by upholding the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders. These are universal principles, and we will not stop defending them. The United States is an essential partner in this endeavor as a NATO ally and through the defense agreement between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States of 1951. Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland. Wow. That is today. A joint statement from the Prime Ministers of France and Germany and Italy and Poland and Spain and the UK and Denmark. PA Jeepers says they're scared. Wow. Nick Nembus said the Indians felt the same way. Roberto says, let's say we had to put a price on Greenland, what would it be? Well, again, Denmark has said it's not for sale. Our viewer Zane Isaiah says, so there's a chance? Nakanish thinks if we don't take it, someone else will. That's what Nakanish thinks. Stasha Morgan says, this is ludicrous. We can't allow this to happen. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Dog Says. Hey, Dog Says, thank you so much for your support. That's really nice of you. Thank you also, Raging Gamer, he says, I think he is trolling, but a bit too much. Lou, thank you, Lou. Lou says, why not just have a large military presence there? Thanks to Silver Shadow, who says, Denmark doesn't need Greenland either. Denmark needs US too. Thanks, Dog Says. Thanks, Bass 3003, who says, is it fair to say Trump doesn't want to put any more military assets anywhere abroad unless we own or administer it? Thanks, Joker McGregor, our member. Mammy Washington says it's not trolling, it's the art of the deal. Blues Dude thinks nothing is not for sale. All right, give me a moment here. Let me also show you. So here's a statement from today from the Prime Minister of Denmark. Remember, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. That is her meeting with Prime Minister Carney of Canada. Okay, so here's what she had to say today. Prime Minister Frederiksen of Denmark. I met today with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Canada is the neighbor of the Kingdom of Denmark in the Arctic. We share boundaries, but most importantly, we also share values. I greatly appreciate that Carney today reaffirmed his full support for kingdom sovereignty. Unity and cooperation is the most important thing we have, especially when it's stormy all around us. And today I've been reassured once again that we stand close together with our partners and allies. Therefore, a big thank you to all the European countries who, in a joint statement today, which we just read, have expressed full support, and the many other countries who have also expressed full solidarity. It's up to Greenland and Denmark to make a decision on what concerns Greenland and Denmark. Safety in the Arctic must be achieved jointly, with full respect for countries' borders. And 2 days ago, this is 2 days ago from Prime Minister Frederiksen. 2 days ago. Remember, this is Prime Minister of Denmark. Greenland is part of Denmark. Prime Minister Frederiksen 2 days ago. I have to say this very directly to the United States. It makes absolutely no sense to talk about the need for the U.S. to take over Greenland. The United States has no access to annex one of the 3 countries in the Commonwealth of Denmark. The Kingdom of Denmark, and therefore Greenland, is part of NATO, and it is therefore covered by NATO's security guarantee. We already have a defense agreement today between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States, which gives the United States wide access to Greenland. And we from the kingdom have invested significantly in the security of the Arctic. I would therefore strongly urge that on the side of the United States, stop the threats against a historically close ally and to another country and another people who have very clearly stated they are not for sale. That is from the Prime Minister of Denmark 2 days ago. Well, clearly, her pleas to stop the threats have not worked, because today the White House did say that Trump was discussing how to acquire Greenland. Just to read this statement from the White House again for you, the White House today said, President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal, and of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. So, the plea to stop talking about it from the Prime Minister of Denmark has not worked. Wow, we're gonna talk about this some more, take some more comments on it. We got to do a poll about this too. You know, it's interesting. Tomorrow, what we might do, tomorrow at 10 a.m., there is the Oversight Committee hearing on Minnesota fraud. But there's also a White House press briefing at 11 with Carolyn Leavitt and other cabinet officials. Maybe we'll do double coverage. Maybe we'll cover the congressional hearing on Minnesota fraud and the White House press briefing. We can cover them both on the same stream, because I think people are going to want to see both maybe. So we might cover both of those at the same time. I think the White House briefing is at 11 and the hearing starts at 10. Look at Stephen Miller. Thanks, Mammy Washington, for your support. Mammy says Greenland is ours. Just watch. I think we got to do a poll. The poll is going to be, will the U.S. under Trump take over Greenland? All right. Here's our poll. Unfortunately, I can't do it on Facebook because on Facebook, they have not fixed the polls yet. I'm sorry, Facebook. Let's do a poll and see what you guys think about this. On YouTube, here is what YouTube has to say. 54% say yes, 46% say no. Interesting. On Twitch, let's see here. On Twitch, we have 35% say yes, 65% say no. I gotta say, I thought you guys would go higher on the yes. I honestly did. I'm a bit surprised by how people are voting. Annette Cervantes, our viewer, says, we need Greenland. W.B. Gorman says, whatever the Don wants, the Don gets. Jeremy Wilson says, making Greenland great again. Whitey UK says, you can just take countries when you want, LOL. New to this says, I'd like to say no, but... Magic X-Man says, no new wars, they said. Democrats are warmongers, they said. Projection all day. Cheryl Simpson says, Canada supports Greenland. Tamara Maryland says, there's no doubt yes. Carrie says, at the very least, he'll try to. FC91 says, there is no chance the U.S. will take over Greenland. Brock Purdy the Great says, Denmark is not going to fight us. Stephen Miller said that, I think, yesterday. He said something like, nobody's going to fight against the U.S. to protect Greenland or something like that. I'll have to get the exact quote. Wow. Let's talk some more about this. Thanks for voting in our poll. I'll leave the poll open for another minute. But we have 55% yes on YouTube, 62% no on Twitch. Rockin says, not going to happen, Europe will fight. Jake Rackmesser says, Greenland will make a deal. I guess in theory, something that could happen, I guess. In theory, could Greenland have an independence vote, and then say they want to join the U.S.? By the way, from what I understand, people in Greenland do not want to join the U.S. I'm not saying that would work. I'm just saying, oops, what happened here with my, with Twitch here? Oh, anyways. All right, thanks for voting in our poll. All right, let's talk about some more details on this. I want to show you a couple things here. Okay, so new reporting today on this. Again, the White House said today that the U.S. military is always an option, even as a series of European leaders rejected President Trump's comments about seeking an American takeover of the world's largest island. Says AP, Trump has floated since his first term the idea of purchasing Greenland, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. But after this weekend's U.S. military action in Venezuela, he has renewed calls for the U.S. to take over Greenland. And then here's that statement again from Carolyn Leavitt today, the White House press secretary. President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal. And of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option of the commander-in-chief's disposal. That's a public statement by the White House today. Oh, this is about Stephen Miller, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, as well as Trump's newly appointed envoy to Greenland, have suggested military action wouldn't be necessary. Okay. I told you that we told you that a number of European leaders today, including the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, and the UK, and Denmark, said in a statement that Greenland belongs to its people. It's for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland. Oh, also, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said the future of Greenland and Denmark are decided solely by the people of Denmark. Interesting. Also, Jeff Landry, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, who Trump appointed last month as U.S. Special Envoy to Greenland, said today, when it comes to making a deal with Greenland, he isn't interested in talking to people in Denmark who absolutely have made their position clear. Nor does Landry want to talk to European diplomats, he said. He wants to have conversations directly with residents of Greenland, which again is part of Denmark. Landry said on a Fox News radio show, "I want to talk to people who want an opportunity to improve the quality of life in Greenland." He said he has already exchanged emails with Greenlanders who have reached out to him. They tell me they like to hunt, they like to fish, they like to have a good time. I'm like, y'all belong in Louisiana. I'm going to call it culinary diplomacy, Landry quipped. Oh, and here's something that Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, told CNN yesterday. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller said Monday that Greenland should be part of the United States in spite of a warning by the Prime Minister of Denmark that a U.S. takeover would amount to the end of NATO. Miller said to CNN yesterday, "The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus." Trump said on Sunday, "It's so strategic right now. Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it." Stephen Miller wondered during his interview yesterday whether Denmark can assert control over Greenland. "What's the basis of their territorial claim?" Miller said. What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? But he also said, Stephen Miller also said yesterday, it wasn't necessary to consider whether the U.S. administration was contemplating an armed intervention. There is no need to even think or talk about this in the content that you are asking of a military operation. Nobody is going to fight the U.S. militarily over the future of Greenland, Miller said. So Stephen Miller says, we don't need to talk about some kind of military action because nobody's going to fight the U.S. over this. Wow. A little more background here, then I'll take some more comments from you guys. Greenland had been a colony of the Danish kingdom for hundreds of years, says AP, before becoming an integral part of the kingdom in 1953. The U.S. government recognized Denmark's right to the whole of Greenland at the beginning of the 20th century. Legislation in 2009 that extended self-government to Greenland, it's autonomous within Denmark, also recognized a right to independence under international law, an option favored by the majority of Greenlanders. Greenland sits off the northeastern coast of Canada with more than 2/3 of its territory lying within the Arctic Circle. That location has made it crucial to the defense of North America since World War II. As we said before, the U.S. Department of Defense operates the Bitufik Air Force Base, or the Bitufik Space Base in northwestern Greenland. The base supports missile warning, missile defense, and space surveillance operations for the U.S. and NATO. Greenland also guards part of the GI-UK Gap, named for the initials of Greenland, Iceland, and the UK, where NATO monitors Russian naval movements in the North Atlantic. Greenland also has large deposits of rare earth minerals needed to make everything from computers and smartphones to the batteries, solar, and wind technologies that will power a transition away from fossil fuels. The U.S. Geological Survey also has identified potential offshore deposits of oil and natural gas. By the way, don't forget that Katie Miller, the wife of one of President Trump's top advisors, Stephen Miller, Katie Miller posted on after the attack on Venezuela by the U.S. and capturing Maduro. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, posted this, which is a map of Greenland with the stars and stripes on it, and she wrote "soon" in capital letters. So, what is going to happen here? What is going to happen here? Let's take some more comments from you guys. One of our viewers, Frothy, says Greenland, aka the new 51st state. Zoom Zoom says all Americans are to blame for this. There's Stephen Miller. Sparkle Girl Sparkle thinks Stephen Miller is pure evil. Geek with Glasses says disgusting, no new wars party. Ben Van thinks Cuba will be in the U.S. by January 24th. The Knight's Palace says it's ours. Rich says shame on Denmark for its imperialism. Norm McDougall says they can have Greenland or NATO, let them choose. Wow. Let me check a couple things here. I like to keep checking things because you never know when new news is going to come out. I don't want to miss something when I'm on the air. We're going to talk about Venezuela in a few minutes. We'll get you caught up on Venezuela too with some of the new news coming out of Venezuela. But I do have some more to talk about Greenland. Let's see here. Moose's Backyard, our viewer, says, let's be open, the U.S. became such a dystopia. It was gradually shaped by lack of morality, arrogance, greed, hypocrisy, lies, poor education, and a completely ludicrous set of beliefs. What we're witnessing is its inevitable decadence. That's what our viewer Moose's Backyard says. Democrat, our viewer, says, I think if the U.S. overtakes Greenland, this might actually lead to World War III. John Turpin, our viewer, says if Denmark were offered $1 trillion for Greenland, they would be crazy not to take the offer. Nick Wall says if the U.S. did use the military to take Greenland, wouldn't that invoke Article 5 with the rest of NATO? I don't know how that works because I have to look at the actual language of Article 5. And I think with Article 5, possibly that like the members of NATO would have to agree on how to respond. But how would that work when one of the attacking countries was a member of NATO? Here's Article 5 from the NATO website. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all, and consequently they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them in exercise of the right of the individual or collective self-defense will assist the parties or parties so attacked by taking forthwith individually and in concert with other parties. So I guess they don't have to agree with everybody else on what to do. But such action, each country individually and collectively can take action it deems necessary, including the use of armed force, to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. So it doesn't specifically say what other countries, what the countries would do, what allies of the attack country would do. Although I'm not an expert on the legalities of NATO, so I don't know what might change about all that if the attacking country is in NATO. Let's see. One of our viewers said kick U.S. out of NATO. Well, the comment on NATO. Hold on a second. There was a yesterday. Didn't like in the last couple of days. The head of Denmark said it'd be the end of NATO. Hold on a second here. Yeah. Hold on. Wait. Where is it here? I must have it. I have to find the quote. Yeah, I have it right here. It's from yesterday, isn't it? Yeah, right here. Look. Here's the AP article about it. Danish Prime Minister says a U.S. takeover of Greenland would mark the end of NATO. This is on the right, you have the Denmark Prime Minister there and the Greenland Prime Minister on the left. So Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said Monday an American takeover of Greenland would amount to the end of the NATO military alliance. Her comments came in response to U.S. President Trump's renewed call for the strategic mineral-rich Arctic island to come under U.S. control in the aftermath of the weekend military operation in Venezuela. The military operation in Venezuela heightened concerns in Denmark and Greenland, which is a semi-autonomous territory of the Danish kingdom and thus part of NATO. Greenland is part of NATO as part of Denmark. Frederiksen and her Greenlandic counterpart, the Prime Minister of Greenland, Jens Frederik Nielsen, blasted President Trump's comments and warned of catastrophic consequences. The Denmark Prime Minister told broadcaster TV2 yesterday, if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops. That is, including our NATO and thus the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War. Remember, President Trump on Air Force One said, let's talk about Greenland in 20 days. The Prime Minister of Greenland Jens Frederick Nielsen, said in a news conference Monday that Greenland cannot be compared to Venezuela. He urged his constituents to stay calm and united. He said, "We are not in a situation where we think that there might be a takeover of the country overnight, and that is why we are insisting that we want good cooperation," he said. He added, "The situation is not such that the U.S. can simply conquer Greenland." Oh, interesting. A TV2 political journalist wrote Monday that the Prime Minister of Denmark previously would have flatly rejected the idea of an American takeover of Greenland. But now the rhetoric has escalated so much that she has to acknowledge the possibility. Our viewer Dwight Somberger says, "Who's going to stop us?" Tammy Flashy says, "Couldn't we start putting U.S. flags up?" Gaxley thinks it won't happen. Meech 2 said, "We all didn't vote for this nuthead." Radioactive Apple says, "We need allies." Justin Avery says, "We don't need NATO anymore. We are NATO." Man. Hey, thanks Jay Coulter, who says USA would be left alone. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Thanks P.A. Jeeper for your support, who says U.S. taking Greenland would prove NATO is useless. Thanks also Manny, who says it was promised to us 3,000 years ago. Thanks Mr. Mental Happy, who says we are cyberbullying Europe. Thanks to the names blank, who says not our country, not our problem. Though no country on earth wants the smoke from US of A. Thanks Jesse Johnson, who says, wouldn't this be something Congress has to approve? Thanks West7580, who says Arctic shipping routes will open as soon as the sea ice melts. Jay Coulter also says an attack or invasion would be an attack on Greenland and would be an attack on NATO. And if such happens, hopefully Europe gets China's help. Thanks DBG2. DBG2. Who thinks some of the chat proves how easy it was to fool conservatives during Iraq too. Marky B. Yeah thinks the UK will get the deal done. We will sell it for £929 trillion. Thanks Jim Lattermill. Thanks Marky B. Yeah thinks Live Animal 080. Who thinks Greenland secretly loves the USA and wants to unite with the USA. Thank you also to Canadian Girl Stunter, who thinks Prime Minister of Canada is ruining Canada. Thanks Christy Miller as well, who says President Trump is trying to get NATO to step up and do their job. Let's see here. Wallace says U.S. tourism will go to zero. Tricia says the USA has no rules, laws, or guardrails for the maniac. You are all doomed. Zach Hudson says America owns the Western Hemisphere. We should show you where the Western Hemisphere is, by the way. President Trump and the Trump administration has talked about it. Hey guys, this is the Western Hemisphere. This is from the Department of State. It's half of the surface of, it's half of the Earth. I guess the surface of the Earth. Well, and however we want to define it. Basically half the Earth. There it is right there, the Western Hemisphere. One of the viewers said our half. You can see it says the following countries are in the Western Hemisphere region. A larger image of Western Hemisphere map. Countries comprising the Western Hemisphere region. One of our viewers says it's all part of the United States. That's what Vesper says. Hey, thanks to Frukar Toffine, who says, people laughed when I said Monroe Doctrine a few weeks ago. Donnie even calls this the Donroe Doctrine. Thanks to Mongol Mamba on Twitch, Mapple Kotcu on Twitch, Jim Russell on Twitch, Valor2 on Twitch, Katz Sadow on Twitch. Thank you. Also, Shaft, thanks for the memberships. Jay Coulter. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about whether the U.S. might take over Greenland, whether President Trump might take control of Greenland. There is new reporting today. For example, the White House came out with a statement today that said, here is the White House statement. Hold on, I'm going to show you the White House statement. It said, this is the statement from the White House press secretary right here. President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal, and of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. Also, Reuters is reporting that a senior U.S. official told them that Trump and his advisors are discussing a variety of ways to acquire Greenland. The senior U.S. official also said it's not going away, talking about Trump's drive to acquire Greenland during his remaining 3 years in office. Also, multiple outlets are reporting, including Reuters and Wall Street Journal, that Secretary of State Rubio told lawmakers yesterday that recent administration threats against Greenland did not signal an imminent invasion, and that the goal is to buy Greenland from Denmark. The Wall Street Journal reported that where is it here? The Wall Street Journal said that Rubio said the White House is using threatening rhetoric to pressure Denmark into negotiations to sell Greenland to the United States. And we've seen major pushback today. As I mentioned, that statement from a number of European leaders, the statement that includes today President of France, Chancellor of Germany, Prime Minister of Italy, Prime Minister of Poland, Prime Minister of Spain, Prime Minister of the UK, and the Prime Minister of Denmark. Greenland's part of Denmark. And they released a statement, and then at the bottom it says, Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland. So where is this all going? Where is this all going? We're going to talk some more about this. Let's see here. I have some more reporting on this I want to talk about. What's going to happen? Would President Trump maybe start moving some military? Would he need to? See, this is what I don't know. Would he need to move military? Could we wake up one morning and find out that that some U.S. military has established a presence on a new part of Greenland or something? I don't know. What's going to happen? Phoenix says this isn't normal. Massachusetts guy says 300 million acres of nothing. 30 Days says, I am totally going to move there if we buy it. Chad Penguin says to its people, not to Denmark. The wireless god says, take Greenland and Denmark, name them Donland and Donmark. Oh, and we have another thing here. There's some interesting stuff about this. Some interesting reporting about this. I have a bunch of stuff here. Here's something I want. It's a little background I wanted to show you. Oops. Oops, one moment here. One moment here. Okay. A reminder, here is Greenland. No, not there. Here is Greenland here. There it is on the map, right there. 57, population 57,000. There it is. Thank you to Joe9611, who says, fix Venezuela, repeat with Cuba, Colombia, and Mexico, remove Brazil out of BRICS, buy Greenland and buy Canada, U.S. dominance in the Americas. USA, USA. That's what our viewer Joe says. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Space Fraggle. Thanks, Twitzel, who thinks the president is setting the U.S. on a path that will be extremely expensive for the U.S. to reverse in the future. What does this even mean for future presidents' policy options? No good choices. Thanks, JVT413, who says better first strike capabilities over North Pole. Remember, my understanding is that the U.S. is not significantly restricted from doing military stuff in Greenland by its current agreement with Denmark. That nothing is really stopping it from increasing its military presence in Greenland. That's what I understand, but I'm going to do some more reading on it. Thanks to the Silver Shadow, who says it's the globalist that doesn't want Denmark to give up Greenland, which just happens to be the same people that wanted our borders to be open also. Thank you, P.A. Jeeper, who says Western Hemisphere to be renamed American Hemisphere. England, watch out, or we will rename the English channel to the George Washington channel. You know, the idea about renaming it the American Hemisphere, if President Trump announced that one day, I wouldn't be totally surprised. I'm just saying. Let's see here. Tech Slug says, amazing that the nationalists don't see themselves cheering the precursor to what caused the downfall of Germany's global ambition. Crime expert thinks it's all about rare earth minerals. Naughty Boy says, people need to relax. Trump won't take over Greenland. OLK Hardkiller thinks U.S. probably can't mine the minerals on the island since they can't get access with the current agreement. That I'm not sure about. I think they might have opportunity, but we'll try to get more information on that. Buckley thinks Trump is going out with a bang, destroying the world quickly. If I got that comment right. Hey, thanks so much to Tool from Denmark. Thanks to the viewer from Denmark, Tool, who says Denmark has offered the U.S. the option to increase the military presence in Greenland, which could include building or expanding bases. Only 6% of Greenlanders support Greenland becoming part of the U.S. That's what Tool from Denmark says. Thanks also, Creamers, for your support. I really appreciate it. Who says, we did purchase Louisiana, Florida, Alaska, and Virgin Island. It would be great to include Greenland in our union. All right, little background here. Why does Trump want the U.S. to control Greenland? I saw yesterday, who was this? I saw who was speaking. I think it was one of the editors of The Economist. And what was he saying? It was an interview with him. And I think he was saying that some leaders in Europe, if I have this right, I think he was saying some officials in Europe think like that there's not, practically speaking, they can't figure out why it's so important to Trump to have control of Greenland, because their view is that everything the U.S. wants, it can already get. And I think if I have this right, he said some European leaders think that Trump just wants to be able to say that he increased the territory of the United States. I'm not saying you should believe that. I think it was David something of The Economist. I watched this clip of this interview yesterday. I'm paraphrasing what he said. But there has been this question of like, what is the big benefit for the U.S. and are the things that President Trump says he wants out of it things the U.S. could get anyway without taking it over, which is an interesting question. So you can see here, what was I going to show you, right? Where was I? Where did my article go? Where did my article go? Here. Why does Trump want the U.S. to control Greenland? This is from Reuters. Okay. President Trump, this is a couple weeks ago, he said the United States needs Greenland for national security and a newly appointed special envoy would lead the charge, drawing sharp criticism from Denmark and Greenland. Why does Trump want Greenland? Reuters says Greenland's strategic location and resources could benefit the U.S. It lies along the shortest route from Europe to North America, vital for the U.S. ballistic missile warning system. The U.S. has expressed interest in expanding its existing military presence on the Arctic island, including placing radars there to watch waters between the island, Iceland, and Britain used by Russian Navy vessels and nuclear submarines. Trump told reporters on Monday, now this is back in December. Trump said back in December, we need Greenland for national security, not for minerals. If you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. Shipping data shows most Chinese shipping in Arctic waters is in the Pacific, Arctic, and Northern Sea route near Russia. Most Russian shipping in the Arctic is around Russia's own coast, though analysts say Russian submarines do often travel the waters between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK. More broadly, the Arctic is becoming increasingly militarized with NATO states, China and Russia all expanding activity there. The island, whose capital Nuuk is closer to New York than the Danish capital Copenhagen, boasts mineral, oil, and natural gas wealth, but development has been slow and mining has seen very limited U.S. investment. The current U.S. presence there, what is it? The U.S. military maintains a presence at I think it's Bitufik Air Base in Greenland's northwest. A 1951 agreement between the U.S. and Denmark gave the U.S. the right to move around freely and construct military bases in Greenland as long as Denmark and Greenland are notified. Historically, Denmark has accommodated the U.S. because Copenhagen does not have the capability to defend Greenland and because U.S. security guarantees to Denmark through NATO. What is Greenland's status now? The island, a former colony of Denmark, became a formal territory of Denmark in 1953. It is subject to the Danish constitution. In 2009, the island was granted broad self-governing autonomy, including the right to declare independence from Denmark through a referendum. Under the 2009 law, Greenland's parliament can invoke a provision that would have Denmark and Greenland begin negotiations about achieving full independence. Greenland's people would need to endorse independence in a referendum, and an independence agreement between Denmark and Greenland would also require the Denmark parliament's consent. Okay, a little more background. What does Greenland want? Relations between Greenland and Denmark have been strained after revelations of historical mistreatment of Greenlanders under colonial rule. However, Trump's interest in the island has prompted Denmark to do more to improve its ties with Greenland. Polls show that a majority of Greenland's 57,000 inhabitants back independence from Denmark, but many Greenlanders warn against acting rashly, fearing Greenland could become worse off and expose itself to the U.S. if it too quickly seeks independence from Denmark. Independence from Denmark doesn't mean belonging to the U.S., it just means independence. Greenland's economy has been reliant on fishing, which accounts for over 95% of exports, and annual subsidies from Denmark, which cover roughly half of the public budget. What if Greenland becomes independent? I was wondering about that. If Greenland became independent, it could choose to become associated with the U.S., without becoming U.S. territory. The island could form a so-called free association with the U.S. that would replace Danish subsidies with U.S. support and protection in return for military rights, a setup similar to the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Palau. According to an expert on Greenland, Trump's idea of buying Greenland is based on a misunderstanding of international law and the principle of self-determination, which gives people the right to choose their own political status. Okay, we told you that Trump has named Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as a special envoy to Greenland, which drew renewed criticism from Denmark and Greenland over Washington's interest. Landry supports the idea of Greenland becoming part of the U.S. What do Denmark and Greenland say? Right at the bottom of the article. It says here, hold on a moment. Oops, right here. Hold on. There. When Trump offered to buy Greenland during his first presidential term, the Danish prime minister called it absurd. The Danish prime minister and Greenland's prime minister said in a joint statement in December that Greenland belongs to Greenlanders. You cannot annex another country, not even with an argument about international security. And again, we heard Denmark's prime minister just in a statement today say it was a matter for Greenland and Denmark, not for the U.S. That's a little background there, a little bit of background. Man, there's so many interesting aspects of this. I want to take some more of your comments here. Oh, by the way, the Washington Post says polls show an overwhelming majority of Greenlanders, whatever their complicated feelings about centuries of Danish rule, have no interest in joining the United States. And the political dispensation in charge of Greenland has been clear about rejecting Washington's overtures. Greenland's prime minister said in a social media post on Monday, oh, I'll show you this. Hold on, let me show you his social media post. Where is it here? Oh, I have it right here. I have it right here. This is yesterday. This is an official account, the Greenland in USA and Canada account, okay? And this is a statement from the Prime Minister of Greenland, posted by the account. This is an official statement. So hang on, let me show you this statement by the Prime Minister of Greenland. It's a little big on the screen right now. Okay. We have been the United States' close and loyal friend for generations. We have stood shoulder to shoulder in difficult times. We have taken responsibility for security in the North Atlantic and, not least, North America. That is what true friends do. For this reason, says the Prime Minister of Greenland. Let me just make, this is the Prime Minister of Greenland. This is the Prime Minister of Greenland statement. The Prime Minister of Greenland says, for this reason, the immediate and repeated rhetoric coming from the United States is completely unacceptable. I should have read this a little earlier. Sorry for the delay. When the President of the United States speaks of needing Greenland and links us to Venezuela and military intervention, it is not just wrong, it is disrespectful. This is from yesterday from the Prime Minister of Greenland. He continues, our country is not an object in great power rhetoric. We are a people, a country, a democracy that must be respected, especially by close and loyal friends. We are a member of NATO, and we are fully aware of our country's strategic location. We also recognize that our security depends on good friends and strong alliances. In this regard, a respectful and loyal relationship with the United States is of great importance. That has been the case for decades. But alliances are built on trust, and trust requires respect, he says. I think there's more, he said. Oh, there's a, hold on. There's a third part of this statement. There's a third part of the third page. Page 3 of the statement is right here. Here is page 3 of the statement by the Greenland Prime Minister. Threats, pressure, and talk of annexation have no place between friends. That is not how one speaks to a people who have time and again demonstrated responsibility, stability, and loyalty. Enough is enough, he says. No more pressure. No more insinuations. No more fantasies of annexation. We are open to dialogue. We are open to discussions, but they must take place through the proper channels and in respect of international law. And the proper channels are not random and disrespectful posts on social media. Greenland is our home and territory, and it will remain so. So that is the statement from the Greenland Prime Minister. Enough is enough. No more pressure, no more insinuations, no more fantasies of annexation. Hang on one moment here. I'm going to post that, I think. That was yesterday. All right, let me get your thoughts. Our viewer, Rick the Explorer says he doesn't matter. Oh, no, I want to show the other page here. Where is it here? That's the last page of his statement. English Militia says he can put that right up his Truth Social. Our viewer Vidwash thinks the USA is a terrorist state like Russia now. Engine Joe says leave Greenland alone. Phoenix thinks the Prime Minister of Greenland's a good man. If you were wondering what the official Greenland statement on this was, Massachusetts guy thinks anything can be brought for the right price. Michelle Batten said, well said, Prime Minister. Mammy Washington says, we need Greenland. Drew says, no thanks, Prime Minister. Prime Minister can keep yapping. If we want Greenland, we can have it. Bandy Ware says, okay, how much to buy it? Friendly Creative Seal says, Greenland proud. BIH301 says, do they even have a military? Adam is my name says, Delta Force go. Flumpington says, I think that says everything it needs to get lost Trump. Jumulation says strong statement. Hey, by the way, thanks to our moderators who are here. We have moderating right now. Ruth is moderating over there on YouTube. Thank you. We have moderating. Hold on a moment here. I got that fire in Surly Dev over there on Twitch. We have moderating Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, been over there on Facebook. Thank you so much for moderating over there. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. Thanks to Helen Anderson for subscribing, by the way, and Dave Stevens for subscribing, and Jennifer Ellers. And thanks, Dave Stevens, for the Facebook stars, and Kay and Margaret for subscribing. Hey, shout out to our Twitch subscribers too. People like Wet In, I'll call you. Wet In, thanks for subscribing. Reef for You, CC, Wall Street Shaggy, thanks for subscribing over there on Twitch. Hey, thanks Fen Beingold on Twitch, who says, it's like what Gordon Gekko said in Wall Street, I create nothing, I own, we make the rules, pal. In Trump's mind, Trump owns. Thanks to TechSlug for your support. TechSlug says Germany literally used the same arguments why it needed to expand its reach, while also demonizing a class inside its own population as a way to whip up nationalism. That's from TechSlug. Thanks, Reef for AU for your support, and the Severinator for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks, Valor, for subscribing. Mapple Katsu for subscribing. All of our subscribers over there. Notorious Rob, Matthew Kohai 3, all the other subscribers on Twitch. Thank you. Okay, now, somebody said rename it Trumpland. There was a 6.7 earthquake in the Philippine Islands region, just to let you know about that. I just heard about that. Hang on, I'll show you. 6.4 actually, a 6.4 earthquake according to the USGS. 6.4 earthquake 27 kilometers east of Santiago, Philippines. No tsunami threat from this, by the way, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center says. All right, I want to talk more about this, but I think that we should talk a little bit about, I mean, I did say in the title we were going to have some Venezuela updates in this stream, and I do want to talk about some of the Venezuela stuff, and then we can talk some more about the Greenland stuff. By the way, our viewer engineer says the U.S. is already the superior occupying force in Greenland. The U.S. already has more military and infrastructure there than any other nation. This isn't a debate, it's a psyop. That's what engineer says. Jonathan's back says maybe Trump will like Greenland so much he will move there. What is this here? I'll have to look over this. Thanks, Kimberly, for sending me that. I'll have to look that over. Kimberly Barr, thanks for writing in. I think one of my followers said something like in 1916 the U.S. signed a guarantee regarding Greenland. I'd have to look into that. Andreas Petzold posted that. Thank you. All right. Let's... by the way, our viewer Murph says Trump has no right to take over Greenland. It's not a part of the United States. Michelle Lauzon says, if Trump tries to take over if the U.S. moves on Greenland, I will be re-enlisting. I don't think Michelle is in the U.S., by the way. I think he means enlisting outside the U.S. Miss H sent me a popular mechanics article claiming that the U.S. found an abandoned U.S. Army base buried in Greenland's ice shelf. All right, let's take a second and get caught up a little bit on Venezuela stuff. Because I did say we would, and there's been some developments in Venezuela. Have you guys seen this? Oh, before we do that, all right, so we're going to talk about Venezuela a little bit, then we'll talk more about Greenland. Real quick, this is a sponsored broadcast, so thanks to our sponsor, Gold Safe Exchange. Normally the way we do the sponsorships is we hear a little bit about the sponsor at the beginning, and then a little later in the broadcast we hear one more time from me. So quick message from me about our sponsor, and then we will get to the developments in Venezuela and more about Greenland. You know, a number of people these days are investing in gold, silver, and other precious metals as a way of diversifying their portfolio. If you're interested in purchasing some precious metals, one way you can do that is with a precious metals IRA. This is an IRS-approved type of IRA in which your savings are invested into gold or other precious metals. If that kind of thing sounds interesting to you, if you want to know more, you can reach out to the folks at Gold Safe Exchange. They specialize in gold IRAs and other precious metals IRAs. Gold Safe Exchange puts a priority on customer service and transparency. They've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. They have a price match guarantee. If you find a lower quote, they'll beat it. And they explain their processes in clear language so their clients know what's happening with their money. Also, they abide by all government security and safety standards. So if you're even a little interested in opening a gold IRA or other precious metals IRA, call Gold Safe Exchange at 800-341-6727 for a no-pressure chat. Or visit them on the web at goldsafeexchange.com/agenda-free. And mention Agenda-Free TV when you reach out to access a special offer where you could get free gold or silver with qualifying purchases. All right, did you guys see this today? I know some of you have seen this, but this actually came out about 3.5 hours ago, more this evening, what President Trump announced about the oil in Venezuela. Check it out. Oops, let me do it this way. Let me do it this way. Let me show you this way. One moment here. One moment here. Get it on right in the middle of the screen for you. Oops. That didn't work. That didn't work. Now it'll work. There. I got it for you. Oops. Oops. Here. President Trump announced, I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I'm not sure what to make of this in terms of if there's legal issues around this or whatever. I have no idea. I'm going to try to get you some background on this. But that was announced by President Trump at 6:46 p.m. today. Let's see. Our viewer, Is It Realty says, was never about drugs, was always about resources. Master Key thinks it's based. Heavy says it's on a roll, so much winning. Ratso says the money thing is bull. Cheryl Simpson says if I were a Venezuelan, I'd be upset. I'd be interested in knowing what Venezuelans' thoughts on that are. Chris N says noise. Lithrone says Donald is crazy. Karen Catch says thank you, Mr. President. I need cheap gas. Bobby Beard thinks it's stealing. Bill Springs says this is democracy manifest. Gunnar Kaiser said, notice how he didn't say benefit the people of America. No, he did say that. He did say that. Oh, no, you're saying he didn't say people of the United States, just the United States. But he did say benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I also don't understand, because in theory, Congress has the power of the purse in theory. So can the president just take all this money and then spend it however he wants without Congress saying anything? Can the president even take this action without Congress? That's something else. I just don't know, to be honest. I have no idea. Let me try to get you a little more background on this whole story. So that came out tonight. Hold on a second here. Give me a moment. Give me a moment here. I'm going to pull something up about this. Here. Oops, one moment. You'll see it in a second. Venezuela to export $2 billion worth of oil to U.S. and deal with Washington. Now, Reuters says they've reached a deal. President Trump said, remember, his post said that, if I can pull it up here again, President Trump's post said between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil. So at $50 a barrel, which I guess is the rough price maybe, 40 million barrels would be $2 billion. So Reuters says Venezuela to export $2 billion worth of oil to U.S. and deal with Washington. Caracas and Washington have reached a deal to export up to $2 billion worth of Venezuelan crude to the U.S., President Trump said, a flagship negotiation that would divert supplies from China while helping Venezuela avoid deeper oil production cuts. I guess the sanctioned oil, remember what had been happening, if I remember right, is Trump put an oil blockade or quarantine on oil, a lot of oil coming out of Venezuela, and oil was piling up there as the ships had oil on it and they couldn't leave. So oil was piling up. The agreement is a strong sign that the Venezuelan government is responding to Trump's demand that they open up to U.S. oil companies or risk more military intervention. Trump has said he wants interim President Delcy Rodriguez to give U.S. and private companies total access to Venezuela's oil industry. Here, look, Venezuela has millions of barrels of oil loaded on tankers and in storage tanks that it has been unable to ship due to a blockade on exports imposed by Trump since mid-December. The blockade was part of rising U.S. pressure on the government of Venezuela President Maduro that culminated in the U.S. forces capturing him this weekend. Top Venezuelan officials have called Maduro's capture a kidnapping and accused the U.S. of trying to steal the country's vast oil reserves. Venezuela will be turning over between 30 to 50 million barrels of sanctioned oil to the U.S., Trump said in the post, which I showed you. Supplying the trapped crude to the U.S. could initially require reallocating cargoes originally bound for China, two sources had told Reuters. China has been Venezuela's top buyer in the last decade, and especially since the U.S. imposed sanctions on companies involved in oil trade with Venezuela in 2020. So I guess some of these ships were supposed to take their oil to China, but now they're going to go to the U.S. An oil industry source said Trump wants this to happen early so he can say it's a big win. Venezuelan government officials in the state oil company did not provide comment. Okay. U.S. crude oil prices fell more than 1.5% after Trump's announcement, with the agreement expected to increase the volume of Venezuelan oil exported to the U.S. It was not immediately clear if Venezuela would have any access to the proceeds from that supply of oil. Sanctions mean that the state oil company there is excluded from the global financial system, its bank accounts are frozen, and it is blocked from executing transactions in U.S. dollars. Venezuelan and U.S. officials this week discussed possible sales mechanisms, including auctions to allow interested U.S. buyers to bid for oil cargoes, and issuing U.S. licenses to the state oil company's business partners that could lead to supply contracts. The U.S. Secretary of the Interior today said, Doug Burgum said an increased flow of Venezuelan heavy oil to the U.S. Gulf would be great news for job security, future gasoline prices in the U.S., and Venezuela. He told Fox News, Venezuela has an opportunity now to actually have capital come in and rebuild their economy and take advantage. With American technology, American partnership, Venezuela can be transformed. So, Cheryl Simpson says nothing about Venezuelans. 4C Blue, our viewer, says, let's steal the Chinese oil as well. What could go wrong? Pre-breakfast Banana thinks Trump is corrupt. He's destroying the country and making himself rich at the same time. Let's go back to that post here. There is Trump's post. Bluesy girl thinks he liberated Venezuela. Now remember, Maduro is captured, but the rest of the Maduro regime is still there. Froggy Feets thinks he probably made a deal with his buddy Vlad and Xi. Cheryl Simpson says, don't steal from the people. Mad Maror thinks the Venezuelan people are poor. This invasion will only make things worse for them. Thinks Donald Trump doesn't care about them. Maxi Puig says, he who controls the oil controls the world. Just thinking. Then there was something else I think I wanted to mention about Venezuela I saw today. I saw something else about Venezuela. So that came out today. That came out. And then also, this other report about the Interior Ministry of Venezuela. Here, look at this report from Reuters. In post-Maduro Venezuela, U.S. eyes security chief as potential target, sources say. That's Venezuela's interior minister, Diosdado Cabello. Reuters reports the Trump administration has put Venezuela's hardline interior minister on notice that he could be at the top of its target list unless he helps interim President Delcy Rodriguez meet U.S. demands and keep order following the toppling of Nicolas Maduro, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. Diosdado Cabello, who controls security forces accused of widespread human rights abuses, is one of a handful of Maduro loyalists that President Trump has decided to rely on as temporary rulers to maintain stability during a transition period, said one source. U.S. officials are especially concerned that Cabello, given his record of repression and history of rivalry with the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, who's now the acting president, could play the spoiler and are seeking to force his cooperation even as they look for ways to eventually push him out of power and into exile, said the source. In the meantime, they have communicated to Cabello via intermediaries that if he is defiant, he could face a similar fate to Maduro, the authoritarian leader captured in a U.S. raid on Saturday and whisked away to New York. But taking out Cabello could be risky, possibly motivating pro-government motorcycle groups known as colectivos to take to the streets, unleashing the chaos Washington wants to avoid. Their reaction may depend on whether they feel protected by other officials, however. Also on the list of potential U.S. targets is the defense minister, Vladimir Padrino, who, like Cabello, is under a U.S. drug trafficking indictment and has a multi-million-dollar bounty on his head, according to 2 sources. This remains a law enforcement operation, and we are not done yet, said a U.S. Justice Department official. Wow. U.S. officials see the defense minister's collaboration as crucial for avoiding a power vacuum due to his command of the armed forces. They believe he's less dogmatic than Cabello, the interior minister, and more likely to toe the U.S. line while seeking his own safe exit. Oh, also, here's another little update here. The Trump administration has decided that Venezuela's opposition, led by Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, would be unable to keep the peace at a time when Trump wants enough calm on the ground to jumpstart access for oil companies, U.S. oil companies, to Venezuela's vast oil reserves and to avoid having to put U.S. forces on the ground, the source said. Trump instead has embraced a classified CIA assessment that concluded that Maduro's top aides would be the best situated to run the country on an interim basis, according to sources briefed on the matter, says Reuters. U.S. officials also decided to work with Maduro's allies for now, out of a concern that the country could descend into chaos if they tried to force a democratic handover, and that an excluded member of the inner circle might foment a coup, according to one of the sources. But U.S. officials have said the administration eventually wants to move toward new elections. Brain Rot says election when? So I believe, both the defense minister, this is the interior minister and defense minister, who Reuters says that the U.S. government has said could be targets if they don't toe the U.S. line. They are both already, isn't there a reward for both of them in the U.S.? Hold on, let me just find this. This is, it's Diosdado Cabello. Yes, look. So that article was about Diosdado Cabello, the interior minister in Venezuela. Well, look, this is the State Department website. $25 million reward. Narcotics rewards program wanted. Diosdado Cabello Rondon. Now, if you remember, we talked about this either last time or the time before. Marco Rubio was asked on one of the Sunday morning shows about, why did you not arrest, why did we not capture, for example, Diosdado Cabello? Because he's wanted for drug crimes, for narcotic stuff. Why didn't we capture him? And basically, Rubio said that the basic answer, if I remember right, was that what did you want us to do? Like the operation was so complex as it was. Did you want us to make it more complex by landing 5 different places at once? Let me see if I can show you that response by Marco Rubio. We showed you that before, but I'll just try to pull it up here real quick. Let's see here. Yes, I have it right here on Face the Nation. This was Sunday from Face the Nation. Let's see here. Yes. A question, Face the Nation, to Secretary Rubio. Well, President Trump also said the U.S. is ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. But I'm curious because you just described the regime as still in place, essentially. I mean, I'm curious why the Trump administration decided to leave it intact and only arrest Nicolas Maduro and his wife. The person who controls the police, the chief thug, Diosdado Cabello, he's the interior minister. He's been indicted by the U.S. He was in that indictment the administration released. He's a narco-terrorist. There's a $25 million price on his head. He's still in place. The defense minister, who has deep ties to Russia, there's a $15 million price on his head. He's still in place. I'm confused. Are they still wanted by the United States? Why didn't you arrest them if you are taking out the narco-terrorist regime? Secretary Rubio, you're confused? I don't know why that's confusing to you. Question, they're still in power. Rubio, I mean, it's very simple. You're not going to go in and grab up. You're going to, but yeah, you can't go. You're going to go in and suck up 5 people? Okay, they're already complaining about this one operation. Imagine the howls we would have from everybody else if we actually had to go in there and stay 4 days and capture 4 other people. We got the top priority. The number 1 person on the list was the guy who claimed to be the president of the country, and he was not, and he was arrested along with his wife, who was indicted, and that was a pretty sophisticated and frankly complicated operation. He continues, Rubio, it is not easy to land helicopters in the middle of the largest military base in the country. The guy lived on a military base. Land within 3 minutes, kick down his door, grab him, put him in handcuffs, read him his rights, put him in a helicopter, and leave the country without losing any American or American assets. That's not an easy mission. And you're asking me why we didn't do that in 5 other places at the same time? I mean, that's absurd. So that was Marco Rubio's response. But again, just to be clear, the defense minister and the interior minister have rewards on them in the U.S. And here's the reward poster. Here's the reward poster for, this is the interior minister, who is still there, part of the government, $25 million for narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, conspiracy to use and carry machine guns and destructive devices in furtherance of a drug crime. That's the person that the Reuters article was about here. In post-Maduro Venezuela, U.S. security chief is potential target if he doesn't go along. And they also mentioned the defense minister, whose name is Pedrino. Did I get that right? Hold on. Gotta find it here for you. I bet he probably has a wanted poster too. Just to show you. Yes, right here. Look. Narcotics reward program, Venezuelan targets. So Maduro was on there, but also Vladimir Pedrino and, Vladimir Pedrino right here. That's the defense minister. $15 million. Here's his poster. This is the defense minister. Conspiracy to distribute cocaine on board an aircraft registered in the United States. Okay, anyways. So Reuters is reporting that those two, the defense minister and the interior minister, who are currently part of the government existing there, that they could be targets of the U.S. if they don't go along with what the U.S. wants to do. All right, let me take some comments from you guys here. Jerry Cole says, I wonder how this would go if he had cost American lives. Oh, speaking of which, I did want to mention that there was a report today from, I think it was The Hill, about the injuries to the U.S. soldiers. It said here, Philip Timatija, who is with The Hill, said a Pentagon official told The Hill that 7 U.S. service members were injured during the Venezuela operation. 2 are still recovering from their injuries, and 5 have already returned to duty. So that is an update on the injured that I saw in The Hill on the injured soldiers. TriPlan says, I'm still surprised the Maduro capture mission operational security held. Let's see here. CC says, we need to make sure the citizens have food in Venezuela. Barry says, so the U.S. jurisdiction extends to Venezuela? Well, that's what the U.S. believes. I mean, they took Maduro into custody so he could face the U.S. justice system. Crystal Chaos says Rubio is going to be the GOAT by the next election. Javier Valdez says the army of Maduro is still in Venezuela. Maybe we'll do a quick poll here. Will the U.S. military act again? Will there be another U.S. military raid in Venezuela? How's that? Let's ask this. Like, for example, going in and getting this guy would count as a raid. So you can think about raid as how you want, but, you know. All right, let's see what people are saying here. Over on YouTube, we have 2/3 of our voters over there say yes. How about on Twitch? Eric Chambers says, I think we need to go into Colombia. 71% said say yes on Twitch. On YouTube, 65%. On Twitch, 73%. It's pretty close. McLean family thinks Venezuelans will fight back next time. April Coco says, what claim do we have over Greenland? Benny Hill says, the bully nation. TriPlan says, we need Greenland, no wait, Venezuela. Raisback says, the question should be, will it escalate? All right, let me, thanks for voting in our poll. We should talk a bit more about Greenland. One of our viewers mentioned Pentagon Pizza Report. 3 hours ago, Pentagon Pizza Report, at Penn Pizza Report, said both Domino's locations nearby the Pentagon and District Pizza Palace are reporting above average traffic. Freddy's Beach Bar is reporting above average traffic. They look at local pizza places near the Pentagon to maybe try to get a sense of, might there be some extra work going on at the Pentagon? Maybe some military happenings. That was 3 hours ago. 3 hours and 15 minutes ago. Okay, hang on a moment here. Did the Cuban government release pictures of people who were killed in the raid, in the U.S. military action? That seems to be what Lucas Tomlinson of Fox was suggesting. I don't know if I have access to that document, though. I'd like to show you. Anyways, Lucas Tomlinson of Fox posted it. Yeah, I'm seeing that they published it. Oh, is this it? I found it. I found it. Look. Guys, I found it. With deep sorrow, Cuba knows the faces and names of the 32 vigilant combatants who, after fierce resistance, died in a vile act of aggression and state terrorism perpetuated against Venezuela by the United States. So they actually posted this. But I opened it and I can't see the pictures. It didn't really, the document didn't seem to work for me. Anyways, I'll show you. I'll show you anyway. Here, look. So this is from the Cuban government. They say that every one of these people was killed in the American military action. That's 20, so there must be 12 more. Combatants from the armed forces is on the bottom. Oh yeah, so it's these 12, honor and gloria, victims of a new criminal act of aggression and terrorism by the state, perpetrated against our brother republic Venezuela by the United States, ended the life in action. Ended the life, resulted in lives lost in combat, and after fierce resistance, 32 Cubans who were fulfilling missions in representation of the armed forces of Cuba and the Minister of the Interior, at the request of the similar organizations, I think, of the colleague organizations of the South American country of Venezuela. I hadn't realized that had come out. Anyways, I'll post a link of the. I'll post the link if you want to see it. I just posted the link. Okay, now I think we should talk a little more about Greenland. We talked a bunch about Greenland earlier, but I think we should talk a bit more about Greenland. There's a bit more I'd like to say and hear from you about. Oh, I could go on for. There's so much stuff about Greenland out there. I can't talk about it all tonight. But let me also just check a couple things here. Yeah, so some of our viewers have mentioned like the economic resources in Greenland. This is an article from Atlantic Council, which has, they post a lot of cool articles on foreign policy and international relations stuff, atlanticcouncil.org. I'll post a link to this article. But they just, as a little background here. So again, if you missed it, President Trump the last several days has been talking about how America needs Greenland. He's talked about this before, but he talked about it in the last few days. And just today, the White House came out with a statement, and that statement said, the White House statement today said, if I can pull it up here, hold on a moment. President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal, and of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. So the White House said that, public statement today. So there's a lot of talk about whether and President Trump just 2 days ago said on Air Force One repeatedly, we need Greenland for our national security. So there's a question, what's going to happen with Greenland? Is the U.S. really going to try and take Greenland? And also, reportedly, multiple outlets such as the Wall Street Journal and Reuters reported today that Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said to Congress yesterday, you can see here, Trump discussing how to acquire Greenland. U.S. military always an option, White House says. Marco Rubio told members of Congress yesterday that threats against Greenland do not signal an imminent invasion and that the goal is to buy Greenland from Denmark. And the Wall Street Journal reported that Marco Rubio told members of Congress yesterday that the White House is using threatening rhetoric on Greenland to get Denmark. Remember, Greenland's part of Denmark. Rubio, according to the Wall Street Journal, told members of Congress that the White House is using threatening rhetoric about Greenland to pressure Denmark into negotiations. Oops, I got to refresh my camera. I got to refresh the camera. I froze. Let's refresh the camera. Refresh coming up. Am I back? Let's see. There, I'm back. Oh, wow. Wow, how about that? Again, Marco Rubio, according to the Wall Street Journal, told members of Congress yesterday that the threatening rhetoric on Greenland was designed to pressure Denmark into entering into negotiations to sell Greenland to the U.S. Okay, so I wanted to mention, we'll take some more of your comments here, but as a little background, I was going to give you this, just mention a couple things from this Atlantic Council article, everything you need to know about Trump's Greenland gambit. Now this is an article from last year, 2025, but I think it has some helpful background in it. For example, Greenland is strategically significant for a few reasons. First, Greenland has mineral, natural gas, and oil wealth. According to the European Commission, 25 of the 34 critical raw materials it identifies as important to Europe's future are found in Greenland, including those used to make batteries, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. Also, the Arctic is geopolitically hot. The Arctic is home to minerals as well as massive oil and gas reserves, most located on Russian territories, and there's a potential for some sort of future economic confrontation, especially as climate change exacerbates melting ice and changes the nature of shipping lanes. Finally, Greenland is home to the U.S.'s, I think it's Bitufik space base, which permanently houses both the U.S. military and its ballistic missile warning system. The shortest route from the United States to Europe runs through Greenland, hence the importance of this specific location. Let's see here. Skipping down here. This is like from a year ago. Oh, this article also talks about how Greenland has rich mineral reserves, and it is has a possible future as an alternative to China's existing near monopoly on rare earth minerals. Coupled with increased Russian activity in the region and China's stated objective of becoming a near-Arctic state, the incoming administration undoubtedly views securing Greenland firmly within the U.S. sphere of influence as a national security priority. Again, this article was from a year ago. So I just want to mention that background. Also, this is a recent you know what? I was going to post a link to that Atlantic Council article just in case you wanted to read it. I'm going to post a link in the chat right now to the Atlantic Council article. I just did. And now I did want to mention also there is an article from the European Parliament Research Service. Greenland caught in the Arctic geopolitical contest, which came out, I think, kind of recently, October 2025. But It has a bunch of background, which you can read, but I did want to mention it has something about the resources as well. It says Greenland's untapped mineral resources are of strategic importance. Its soil contains valuable minerals, rare earth minerals, precious metals and stones, coal, graphite, and uranium with a high potential for new mineral discoveries. Remember, 25 of 34 of the critical minerals identified in the EU's official critical raw materials list are there. Also, according to Benchmark Minerals Intelligence, 43 of the 50 minerals deemed critical to U.S. national security and economic stability may also be found there. Nevertheless, the mining industry in Greenland remains highly underdeveloped. This is due to large parts of the reserves remaining under thick ice in harsh weather conditions, as well as missing infrastructure and the difficulty of creating it, skills and workforce barriers, political volatility, and an evolving regulatory landscape. Also, Greenland lies near emerging Arctic shipping routes. They also say the EU Parliamentary Research Service, because of Greenland's potential to play a strategic role in emerging shipping routes as climate change reduces the ice in the Arctic, you can read about here. I'll post a link to this. Arctic sea ice loss is projected to continue to the middle of the century, for example. It says, because of Greenland's potential to play a strategic role in emerging shipping routes, defense and mineral supplies, and due to the U.S.'s aim of countering Russian and Chinese influence in the region, the U.S. has developed a profound interest in the island. As Trump claims that acquiring Greenland is an absolute necessity for national security reasons and freedom throughout the world, many analysts argue that instead of acquiring the island, the U.S. could aim for enhanced cooperation with Greenland and Denmark to address Arctic issues, including security, military, and deterrence. Some experts argue that, besides security interests, Trump may be attempting to secure U.S. access to Greenland's natural resources and the island itself. This is an article from October. Anyways, it's interesting. If you want to read some background, I'll post a link to this article from the European Parliament Research Service. Who knew we'd be talking so much about Greenland? About Greenland! Can you believe it? Rosalie, our viewer Rosalie says, so apparently Americans think colonialism is cool again. Real Pew 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 says Trump wants the expensive things they have, so cooperation isn't on his radar. Esteban thinks Denmark is keeping Greenland poor instead of investing. Sarcasm BTC says, I'm happy with cooperation. Bastion Girl says, what in the world? I thought this was a joke. Sambino says, you can't just steal land that belongs to another country. What is wrong with you people? That's what Sambino says. Lizard Tree says, I do not support any of these land grabs by our greedy oligarchs. Patricia Grace thinks Europe will not put a great break on Russia clearly. LKPLLC says this is major. Flumpington says, hold up, I thought climate change was a hoax. Canna Biscuit says, I can see the strategic importance of Greenland to the U.S. There was just also an article with some analysis in it in the Economist. By the way, as the Washington Post says, Danish leaders, remember, Greenland's part of Denmark, Danish leaders were taken aback in December when Trump appointed Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as the U.S. Special Envoy to Greenland, which leaders in Denmark viewed as a renewal of White House attempts to split Greenland from Denmark. Also, the Washington Post reports that U.S. officials in recent days have presented a U.S. move against Greenland as an increasingly concrete possibility in conversations with European counterparts. The declaration that President Trump could use force to take Greenland came hours after a sharp warning on Tuesday from European leaders that Washington needed to respect the borders of a longtime ally. Oh, and look what else the Post is reporting, like other outlets are. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told lawmakers in a closed-door meeting late Monday that the escalation in public rhetoric against Greenland was part of a broader strategy to pressure Denmark into selling Greenland to the United States rather than capture it by military force, one official familiar with the briefing said. But the White House made clear today that force was still a possibility. Danish leaders worry that Trump, fresh off ordering a daring raid that deposed Maduro in Venezuela, may set his sights northward, saying Sunday that Greenland was a national security need for the U.S. and Denmark is not going to be able to do it. Greenland has been part of the Kingdom of Denmark for more than 300 years. An overwhelming majority of Greenlanders opposed annexation by the U.S. in an opinion poll conducted by Denmark's Berlingske newspaper last year, although the same poll found that a smaller majority did favor independence from Denmark. This is a Washington Post article that I was reading to you. They also have an article, the Washington Post, the crisis over Greenland is here. A year ago, it may have seemed a passing storm, another bit of bluster in the whirring maelstrom of President Trump's first months back in office. But now no one sees it as a joke. The White House is serious about its desire to claim and control Greenland, the self-governing Arctic island that is part of the sovereign territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, a NATO ally. And European officials believe the threat of some unilateral move is all too real. Could there be something, remember like with Crimea, after Ukraine, after the pro-Russian leader in Ukraine in the early 2010s, there was that revolution in Ukraine and the pro-Russian leader fled the country. Then after that, one day, unmarked troops who were actually Russian troops showed up in Crimea and invaded Crimea and just took it over. Is there any way that we could wake up one day and there'll be U.S. troops have shown up in Greenland? Is there, yeah, little green men. Is there any way something like that would happen? What do you think? People in the chat think some different things. Some are saying yes, some are saying no. D. George says, no way that happens. On Yosik says yes. Trent says probably happening as we speak. I mean, I don't know, there's 57,000 people, but I don't know what such a move would look like, a unilateral move. Average American says absolutely not. Daniel Reese says everything is possible. If some U.S. troops showed up and they started putting up American flags, right? What if a few hundred American troops showed up? I don't even know where everybody lives in Greenland. I'll have to ask AI. But is there like one city that a lot of the people live in? Nuuk? Is Nuuk the capital? Oops, I did this the wrong way. Give me one moment here. Maybe we have people watching in Greenland. So Nuuk has about 20,000, I guess. Google AI says it's the administrative, cultural, and economic hub. Greenland's capital on its southwest coast. So there's Greenland, and then where's Nuuk? I can't even see it here. I guess I have to look it up. There's Nuuk right there, if I'm pronouncing it right. There's Greenland, and there's Nuuk down there. So what if could we see like U.S. troops just show up in Nuuk one day? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just trying to think of what this would look like. We're seeing these the White House said that using the military was an option. So I'm trying to think of what does using the military look like practically. That's what I'm trying to figure out. There's not some big army there. I don't think that's going to stop them. So I'm trying to figure out what does it look like to use the military? There's Nuuk. Right. Left Shoe says we walk in and say it's ours. Look, whatever you think of the administration, President Trump announced, "Hey, it's the Gulf of America," and they just started calling it the Gulf of America. President Trump said it's the Department of War, even though I think legally the name can't be changed like that. And they just start changing officially. They call it the Department of War. President Trump said, the Kennedy Center board says it's the Trump Kennedy Center, which I think maybe not is legally allowed, but they just changed the name on the sign to the Trump Kennedy Center. So could they just do something similar with Greenland? They just send some troops over there, say, "Hey, it's U.S. Greenland now," or something. I don't know. And they just start calling it that. And then what does everybody else do about it? I don't know. I'm just saying. We'll have to see. Hey, thanks to JF8 for the gift memberships. Thanks to Flung Pupanda, I'll say, who thinks Greenland is trying to make a deal with us. That's what Flung Pupanda says. Thanks, Joe9611, for your support. Who says the U.S. invested in Venezuela oil to build their capabilities in the 20s to 40s. The socialists nationalized the industry and collapsed. Thanks, Joe. Also, thanks to Squeak, thank you, Squeak, and PA Jeeper, and Tool DK. Tool DK from Denmark says Article 5 in the NATO Charter, that's the NATO military alliance, will make this a very complicated war. The U.S. has to defend Greenland against the U.S. because they're in NATO. Was it the Prime Minister of Denmark who said there would be no more NATO if the U.S. attacked Greenland, I believe? Thanks, Average American, our member. Thanks, What's Your Last Name D's. Hey, thanks, What's Your Last Name D's. Thanks for the suggestion. Thanks also Matthew Stevenson, who says, does this greenlight China to take Taiwan? Are you talking about the military action in Venezuela or possible action in Greenland? Thanks A30B1, who says Russian tracking, something that could pop off. Thanks also Sonic. Oh, Sonic says, is it worth going over Greenland demographics? I really don't know much about Greenland demographics, Sonic, but I can look them up. Wikipedia says, what do they say? Most of the people in Greenland are Inuit, according to Wikipedia, ethnically. Greenlandic Inuit, 89.7. Danish, Greenlanders, and other Europeans and North Americans, 7.8%. About 85% to 90% speak Greenlandic. That's the official language of Greenland. Greenlandic Inuit are an ethnic group and nation indigenous to Greenland, where they constitute the largest ethnic population. They share a common ancestry, culture, and history, and natively speak the Greenlandic language, says Wikipedia. Thank you, Sonic, by the way. Thanks also to Bass 3003, who says, if 50% of their budget is subsidized by Denmark, how much political autonomy do they really have? Thank you for our viewer from Norway, ACC. I'm behind on my thank yous. ACC 75. And Zach Hudson. Thank you, Zach. Thank you also, Leonette, for your support. Thanks also Noah Hamilton and Christine Gagnon and Snitchant, who says AI data centers, natural cooling? That's what Snitchant says from Canada. Joe says, we are number one and should act like it. What you going to do about it? Thanks also Tool DK again. Oh, I mentioned Tool DK before. Thank you. And also, sorry, I'm behind. JF8755, thanks for the memberships. Thanks Joe Martin for the memberships. Thanks also Benny Hill for your support, who says the U.S. will only turn Greenland into Mordor. The U.S. will only turn Greenland into Mordor. The UN is useless. I haven't heard talk about that AI angle. I don't know if it's realistic to build AI stuff there. I haven't really seen it emphasized. The New York Times is also reporting tonight that Rubio told lawmakers yesterday that President Trump wants to buy Greenland and not invade it. Multiple outlets reporting that tonight. Oh, the New York Times reports, guys, the New York Times reports tonight that Trump has asked aides to give him an updated plan for acquiring Greenland. Okay, I had not seen this before. That's being reported tonight by the New York Times. That he told aides that. Hold on a moment here. So the New York Times says, Trump yesterday asked aides to give him and told aides to give him an updated plan for acquiring Greenland. How about that? How about that? How about that? Some tea from the New York Times. All right. I hadn't seen that report before. Hang on a moment here. Our viewer Dan Lampkin says, the poor people in Greenland won't be able to hide in the jungle like the Vietnamese. What will they do? I don't think the U.S. is talking about attacking the people in Greenland. But again, from what I've read, the people in Greenland don't want to be part of the United States, generally speaking. And they belong to Denmark. They are part of Denmark right now. Grumpier TV, thank you. Grumpier TV says there's a huge difference between Venezuela and attacking a NATO ally. This would destroy the U.S. hard-built alliance structure. Thanks. Is it reality? Who points out the U.S. does already have a military base in Greenland. Thank you. Also, hold on a second here. By the way, a reminder, in the morning, we're going to be covering at 10 a.m. the House Oversight Committee is doing a hearing on the Minnesota fraud scandal. So that's at 10 a.m. And then at 11 a.m., there's a White House press briefing. So my plan is to do double coverage where we cover the start of the Oversight Committee hearing on the Minnesota fraud, and then we cover the White House press briefing in the same broadcast. So the Oversight Committee hearing starts at 10. So I'm planning on coming on before 10 to cover that. So I hope you can join us in the morning. Thanks also, Awesome J Productions. I appreciate it. Awesome J Productions, if I could clone myself, maybe we would do it. If I could clone myself. Too much to do. Thank you, Awesome J Productions. I really appreciate it. Let me just see if we have any other updates to give you here. The Wall Street Journal has an article today called Alarm Spreads Among U.S. Allies Over Trump's Demand for Greenland. And they say the past few days have renewed fears in Europe that the Western alliance is fracturing. Allies fear that U.S. is actively dismantling the post-World War II international order based on such principles as protecting the sovereignty of states and limiting the use of military force. In its place, allies fear a division of the world into great power spheres of influence, which would curtail the sovereignty of smaller countries. That's, according to the Wall Street Journal, a fear among U.S. allies. How about that? I mean, I know, we did a poll, and I think on YouTube it was like 53% said the Trump administration would take Trump under the U.S. would take Greenland, and then it was like 53%. It was like half and half on YouTube, and then I think on Twitch it was like 65% no. I just want to say again, Trump has said it again and again. We need Greenland. We need Greenland. We need Greenland. The White House literally released a statement today that said that the U.S. is that President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal, and of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. It's not like we're talking about this because a few newspapers or news channels have said they heard something about it. Literally, Trump and the White House are saying this. Trump and White House officials are saying it openly. The White House is saying it openly. So I know you might think it's a crazy thing to think about, and I understand where that comes from. But again, this is something that Trump and the White House officials are saying openly, publicly, repeatedly. I mean, would they, if it wasn't really serious, would they keep saying it? 2020 says we live in really strange times. Thank you, Gino Martinez, who says, what if we wake up tomorrow when it's renamed Orange Land? Thug Aim thinks it's pure madness. Evelyn in Maine thinks it's going to happen. Mark F says, seems like a distraction. The Knight's Palace says, we need Greenland. Thanks, Kevin L., our member. Lisa Sawyer, thank you. Spin City News and Mosh Miri, thanks for your support, for being members. And Flung Pupanda, who says, China takes Taiwan, they will control all the ocean in that area. U.S. has to show strength. It's all right in front of us. Now, one of our viewers, Max Dayton, said he also said he will release the Epstein files immediately and end Ukraine war on day one. That is true. He did say those things. Yeah, so, I mean, but they've been saying this. It was very interesting when he was asked, that moment when he was asked about it, and he said 2 months and then 20 days. It sort of seemed, I mean, you might wonder, like, is there some plan in place? Remember, this is when he was asked about it on Air Force One on on 2 days ago. And he said, ask me about it in 20 days. Hold on. Here's the thing when he said the 20 days thing.
Falling down. Yeah, bridges that are falling down. Nobody can go anywhere.
And on Greenland,
On Greenland now?
Yeah, on Greenland.
How did we come up to Greenland?
So, do you expect to take an action against Greenland?
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Let's talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine. We'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
On Venezuela.
I mean, 20 days seem kind of specific. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. All right, a few more comments here. A few more comments on this. Merck thinks they have a roadmap. He said 2 months, then he said 20 days. Tool DK, I didn't hear this. Our viewer Tool DK from Denmark, thank you Tool DK, says the U.S. was classified as a potential security risk last month by the Danish Military Intelligence Agency. I'm not saying that wasn't true. Maybe I read something about that. Oh yes, CNN has a report. Denmark labeled the U.S. as a potential security concern for the first time in an annual report released by one of its intelligence agencies. That's an article from December. Thanks, Tool DK. Thanks, Melody CJ, who says, we don't need Greenland, it's a block of ice. Thanks, Melody CJ. How do you pronounce Nuuk, by the way, the capital? It is pronounced... Wikipedia says... Nuuk. Nuuk. According to Wikipedia. Ruth says, real Americans completely ignore what the rest of the world thinks of us, really. We are amused by it, actually. We are the most powerful country on earth. Yell Be Full says, he says 2 weeks to everything, so that's maybe why he said 20 days. He didn't say 2 weeks, though. He said 2 months, and then he said 20 days. You know, The Economist, something that they talked about, they had an article about this that came out yesterday called The White House Weighs How to Acquire Greenland. Something they talked about is they talked about how the administration, their strategy appears to be two-pronged. First of all, it aims to cultivate elements within Greenland's independence movement and to deepen divisions with Denmark, between Greenland and Denmark. Second, the administration appears to be trying to strike a deal of sorts with Greenland, perhaps even bypassing Denmark entirely. The Economist talks about, over the past years, American officials have fomented divisions between Greenland and Denmark. During a visit last March, J.D. Vance criticized Denmark for failing Greenlanders and appeared to back independence. In December, Mr. Trump appointed the Jeff Landry, the Republican governor of Louisiana, as special envoy to Greenland, which is part of Denmark. The move implied, at least to some, that America intended to treat Greenland as a separate entity from Denmark. The Economist says the CIA and the National Security Agency have also reportedly stepped up surveillance of Greenland's independence movement and been tasked with identifying locals sympathetic to America. You know, does the U.S., as part of all this, try to argue that Greenlanders want this? And say, look at these Greenlanders we found. They really want it. I don't know. Is that going to be the part of the argument? The Danish government summoned American diplomats 3 times last year over reports of spying and running a covert influence campaign in Greenland, says The Economist. At the same time, there is growing talk that the Trump administration is working on a deal to present to Greenland a deal. Trump has repeatedly compared it to a real estate deal, one that would bring great riches to Greenlanders. The Economist points out that Danes say that, look, there are no explicit limits on the number of troops America can currently deploy to Greenland under the terms of a treaty with Denmark, although any significant increase or change in the military presence by America would probably require the consent of Denmark. Anyways, it's fascinating. All right, we'll take a few more comments here. We're certainly going to keep an eye on this story. I feel like maybe, I think there's a huge chance something's going to happen here. I mean, given how much the president and the White House have been talking about this, I feel like maybe a lot of people feel less than me that something will happen. But I just look at what they've been saying and the way they've been saying it. Feels like things are heating up. Let's see. HMN says, nah. Mon says, I hope it does not happen. Lone Marauder thinks the USA is fueling new wars. Matt Machine says, are we the new USSR? One Nan B says, how does Putin feel about this? Roan says they will accept or get nuked. Old Man with a Cat says it's all about China. Again, the New York Times is reporting tonight that yesterday, Trump told aides to give him an updated plan for acquiring Greenland. Gamer Lovers thinks it sounds like it's true. The True Love Flog says it's about our own national defense. Oh, let me check one other thing here. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds to check one other thing here. I want to see if I have any AFP reporting on this. They might have something different if you give me 2 seconds. Okay, there's that. There's this. Let's get that done. Let's see. Frisian Drone Aviator says if Trump does this, he betrays his allies and NATO will be gone. Hanner says, so every bigger country can take some smaller country to themselves just because they feel the need? Joey says, is there 24/7 camera in Greenland? We might end up watching Greenland live cams. I wonder if there are Greenland live cams. Are we going to end up having to watch Greenland live cams? That's a good question. Oh, there was a video on Greenland. Hold on. Reuters did have a video about it today. I did want to mention that because they did, and I didn't show it to you. Hold on. Let's pull that up. I think we looked at the article and didn't watch the video. I like to show you the videos when I have a chance. Let's see here. Feed. Maybe not. European leaders rallied behind Greenland. Yeah, here we go. All right, here's a short video about the situation. You can see it's from this article. From this article. European leaders rally behind Greenland in face of renewed U.S. threat. That's from Reuters. Check this out. Let's put this here. Hold on, I'm going to play this for you. Oops. Look at that picture of Trump. Let me get it on the screen for you. Here is a little video about the situation from Reuters. Let's hit play on this. Oops. Did I fix this here? Yes. Here we go.
European leaders rallied behind Greenland on Tuesday following a renewed threat by U.S. President Donald Trump to take over the Danish territory. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk told reporters in Warsaw that Denmark can count on European solidarity over Greenland, and said no NATO member should threaten or attack another. A joint statement issued by the leaders of France, Britain, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, and Denmark the same day said, "It is for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland." Trump has in recent days repeated that he wants to gain control of the Arctic island. He first voiced the idea in 2019 during his first presidency, arguing it is vital for the U.S. military and that Denmark has not done enough to protect it. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller on Monday dismissed concerns about Danish sovereignty. He told CNN, quote, "You can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else, but we live in a world, in the real world, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power." A U.S. military operation over the weekend that seized the leader of Venezuela has rekindled concerns that Greenland might face a similar scenario. Greenland has repeatedly said it does not want to be part of the United States. European leaders said security in the Arctic must be achieved collectively with NATO allies, including the United States. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen welcomed the European leaders' pledge of solidarity and renewed his call to the U.S. for respectful dialogue.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing that we're talking about this. Wild. Let's see if I have anything from Greenland here. Hold on. Wait. Just checking here. Okay, I have a report from AFP. They say President Trump is discussing options, including military action to take control of Greenland. The White House said Tuesday, upping tensions that Denmark could destroy the NATO alliance. Trump has stepped up his designs on the mineral-rich, self-governing Danish territory in the Arctic since the U.S. military seized Venezuelan leader Maduro last weekend. Denmark has warned any move to Greenland to take Greenland by force would mean everything would stop, including NATO and 80 years of close transatlantic security links. Any U.S. military action against Greenland, says AFP, would effectively collapse NATO, since the alliance's Article 5 pledges that member states will defend any of their number that come under attack. As I mentioned earlier, Greenland's foreign minister wrote on social media that Greenland and Denmark had been seeking a meeting with Secretary of State Rubio, but so far that request had been rejected. Let me show you something here also. Here is a post from Senator Ruben Gallego, who is a Democrat. Okay, so Ruben Gallego posted this on his X account. He is a Democratic senator. Oops. He is not for this. He said this is not more complicated than the fact that Trump wants a giant island with his name on it. He wouldn't think twice about putting our troops in danger if it makes him feel big and strong. The U.S. military is not a toy. Cole K. Meister says Green Trump Island. The Wall Street Journal's Yaroslav Trofimov today said the people of Greenland, he's with the Wall Street Journal. There was an article he wrote about this in May. But Yaroslav Trofimov of the Wall Street Journal said he thinks the people of Greenland have very little interest in becoming American, losing their free health care, their language, their culture, and their ability to control their environment. There is full employment in Greenland. Any major investment and development would require importing labor and end the current Inuit population majority. That's a very interesting take. I wrote a lot of this back in May. Let me just say that again. That's from, there's an article he linked to. I haven't even read the article yet. It's a paywalled article, but if you have access to the Wall Street Journal, I posted it there. I'll have to check out his article. But again, it's an interesting, so remember, 57,000 people live in Greenland and about 90% are Inuit, which is a native Greenlandic ethnicity. Sonic had mentioned the demography before our viewer Sonic. So Yaroslav Trofimov of the Wall Street Journal says the people of Greenland have very little interest in becoming American, losing their free health care, their language, their culture, and their ability to control their environment. There is environment. There is full employment in Greenland. So any major investment in development would require importing labor and end the current Inuit population majority. So I guess what he's saying is the people there, it's an interesting way of thinking about it. They might feel that they have a certain culture. It's largely one native ethnic group. They have the majority. There's I believe almost all of them speak Greenlandic, which is the language, and so they might foresee a future if they become part of the U.S. Lots of people move there from the U.S. Their whole culture just goes away. I mean, it's just an interesting thought. I hadn't even thought about that before. It's very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. I don't know how much the administration, they'll take that into account. I don't, because this is, the administration has not said that they want Greenland for the Greenlandic, because the Greenland people want it to be American. The administration has been very clear. I mean, Trump, you've heard Trump say it. We need it for our national security. So I don't know if those considerations matter. Because that's not why Trump is saying that the America needs it, you know? Army Lad says, STFU, you are USA now. Rich says, it's not taking Greenland over, we are just expanding our base. Ball says, nobody is taking their culture. Haunted Bear Child says they can make a deal with them. It's possible. They can make deals to preserve their culture. Maybe give them first dibs. Hectate says it's too much land for 57,000 people. Wow. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what is going to happen. Crypto Coin Flipper replied to me on X and said, it's going to happen, just a matter of how and when. Sorry, I was just too... Oh, I did want to mention this too. Just data remind me of one other thing I want to mention really quick, which doesn't have to do with Greenland. I had posted about this earlier. So the Wall Street Journal reported that Russia has sent a submarine to escort this tanker that the U.S. tried to seize off of Venezuela, the Bella 1. And the Wall Street Journal says this raises the stakes over the Trump administration's attempt to seize the Bella tanker. It's the Wall Street Journal says that that Russia has sent a submarine and other naval assets to escort an empty oil tanker that has become a new flashpoint in U.S.-Russia relations because the tanker has been trying to evade the U.S. blockade of sanctioned oil tankers near Venezuela. It's an empty ship, but the U.S. Coast Guard has been pursuing it into the Atlantic. So I did want to mention that. Ami Sun W says that is not good. Somebody said, why would Russia do this? The Wall Street Journal said Russia is concerned by U.S. seizures of tankers that ferry Russia's illicit oil around the world and power its economy. It was earlier reported that Russia allowed the ship to register as Russian without any kind of inspection or anything. I believe as it was fleeing. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So thanks to our viewer for mentioning that. I've only seen that report in the Wall Street Journal so far. So much news going on. All right, look, it's getting a little late, and we're going to be on the air in the morning as well. We're going to be on the air in the morning. By the way, thanks, I Am Charlie, for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you, I Am Charlie. Yeah, so again, we're going to be on the air before 10, because at 10 a.m. is the Oversight Committee, House Oversight Committee hearing, their first hearing on the Minnesota fraud. They're going to be doing a second one on the Minnesota fraud scandal. And then at 11 a.m., there's a White House press briefing, which I'll be interested in watching. So I'm going to cover both of those in the morning, the hearing and the press briefing. So I hope you can join us in the morning. We'll be on before 10 because the hearing starts at 10. 10 Eastern time. 10 Eastern time, and then 11 Eastern time is the press briefing. Okay? So, so I really appreciate you guys coming to this stream, and very interested in seeing what happens with Greenland. I certainly think something could happen, but we'll have to just see how things play out. And but I really appreciate you being here. If you'd like, subscribe, follow the channel, Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. And I will post updates on my X account, which is at Lookner. I post all kinds of news updates there when I'm off the air, as well as on the air. At Lookner on X, you can follow me over there. And also, I would suggest turn on the notifications for the channel. We cover all, I don't know when big news is going to happen. There could be something big that happens tonight. I don't know. Something else big. So I don't know when big news is going to happen, but if you don't want to miss a stream, we have our own notification system. It works really, really well. You sign up once for free, and you get sent notifications whenever we go live. The mods will post the link to the notifications in the chat. And you can also find the link to the notifications on the in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook. So sign up for the notifications. All right. Also, Hold on. Let me just pull this up here. Where did this go? Where did that thing go? Thank you so much to our moderators. Wait, I want to thank our moderators. Oh, I was going to post a link to the Economist article. I'm posting a link to the Economist article if you guys want to read the article in the Economist I referred to. I just posted a link to that. Sorry, I forgot to post that before. Hey, so I really appreciate you tuning in. Also, I really appreciate people letting me read your comments on there. A lot of interesting comments and sending me updates. So thanks for doing that and sending your questions in. And also, hey, huge shout out to our moderators. You know, had a lot of people in the chat tonight, people with different views. I love that we can have them chat in the chat, but we can only do that because we have our moderators who are keeping things under control, keeping things respectful in the chat. Ruth over there on YouTube, Roberts May Queen, and all of our YouTube moderators. Huge thanks. Also over there on Twitch, our moderators like Bastion Girl, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev. Big thanks. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha over on X. And also, hold on a moment. Thank you to, thanks Maxie Puig for the Facebook stars, by the way. I missed that before. Thanks, Maxie. And thanks Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley over there on Facebook moderating there. Thank you. And thanks to everybody who donated too. That's super nice of you guys. That's what allows the channel to exist, is your support. So huge, huge thanks for supporting the channel. If you ever want to donate, you go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. Let me make sure I got everybody. Thanks again, I Am Charlie, for the memberships. I Am Charlie, gift memberships. Thanks, Ali Atoric, for being a member, who says, culture preservation, anti-immigration is okay now. Thank you, Navy veteran, our member. Thanks, Rayibo, for your support, who says Cuba, Guantanamo Bay type naval base and air base. Thanks, Publicly Clear. We talked about the Pentagon pizza report from 4 hours ago about heavier than normal pizza orders supposedly around the Pentagon. Thank you, Publicly Clear. G-bar traffic down. What's G-bar traffic? I don't know what that means. What is G-bar? I don't know, Publicly Clear. Hey, thanks. What was I going to say? We have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not live. The Discord chat. It's free. A bunch of our viewers like doing that. Check out the Discord chat if you want. It's the same link as our free notifications link. And so check that out. And thanks so much to our Discord mods for all you do over there on Discord. Now, also, another good way to find out when we're going live is to follow us on X at Agenda Free TV. I always post there before we go live. I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV on X, for those of you on X. And for those who watch on YouTube, I would suggest turn on the YouTube notifications. It's another good way to find out when we're live. Over on YouTube, if you want to turn the notifications on, you got to subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and then choose all notifications. If you're already subscribed, make sure you have the bell clicked and you've chosen all notifications. Oh, thanks, Flung Poo Panda. Thank you. I appreciate it, Flung Poo Panda 12. Much appreciated. Hey, also, Dan Lampkin thinks the Russian submarine thinks maybe the ship, the tanker, has other stuff like silver and gold that was taken out of Venezuela. That's what Dan is wondering, if the ship that Russia is sending the submarine towards. Also, Dan Lampkin thinks that there could have been people in the regime who were paid off by the CIA to help give up Maduro. There's been a lot of speculation about whether there's been any kind of agreement between any of the higher ups in the regime, whether they were working with the U.S. government and were willing to give up Maduro. I don't know if there was some kind of deal. Let's see here. I wanted to thank our Twitch subscribers who support the channel by subscribing, like Cole K. Meister and Distant Galaxy and Grasshopper and Wall Street and Shaggy and Amelian and Matthew Kohai 3. And hey, thanks. Oh, I forgot a couple people on Twitch. Tech Slug, thank you. I missed a couple people on Twitch before to thank. Tander62, I didn't thank Tander for subscribing. Tech Slug, I owe an extra thanks to, who thinks the United States is doing a bang-up job of uniting the world against us. Thank you, Tech Slug. Thanks, Reef4AU and Naomi Russo for your support on Twitch. Thank you so much. Thanks, Juan. See, this is like Juan Dixon Diaz. I don't think that's meant to be a naughty name. I got to be careful with you guys, though. But I don't think it is. Thanks, Juan. Only Juan knows for sure. Thank you, Matthew Kohai 3 for being a subscriber. Notorious Rob. Brain Rot 9000. Fen Beingold. Amelian. Naomi Russo, thanks for subscribing. Distant Galaxy. Grasshopper. Thank you to all of our subscribers over there on Twitch. DGeorge as well. And also our Facebook subscribers, huge thanks. Oh, Helen Anderson, thanks for the bits. Helen Anderson, thank you so much, Helen. And thanks for being a subscriber. Thanks to all of our subscribers. Robert Rial II, Sharon Klassen Goslin, Diane Allworth, Michael Clayton, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, all of our subscribers on Facebook. Huge thanks. I think I thanked some of them earlier too. Thank you. And also our YouTube members. Shout out to our YouTube members. Like B. Earhart, Evelyn in Maine, Tonya Bologna, CAC, Christine Gagnon, Barry, Chris N., Rich, UV Lightning, Patricia Grace, Cara Dwyn, Paul D., Barry, Marin Gobra, Around House, It's Becca Lilly, Benny Hill, April Lee Wax Queen, Barry, I think I said Barry already, CAC, and all of our other members, also our other viewers like Yoso, Quetzalcoatl, Mad Mike, all of our other viewers who are there, the Quaalude, Jay Goodwin, Devontae Wilson, and Spencer. Thanks all of our viewers. Hey, thanks Cade Music for subscribing on Twitch. I appreciate that. Oh, Tech Slug. Hey, Tech Slug, that's so nice of you. Wow, Tech Slug just gave a bunch of bits over there on Twitch. That's very generous of you, Tech Slug. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And Bogan04, My Mind Spray, Pre-Breakfast Banana, and all of our other viewers. Okay, that is it for now. We're wrapping this up. I hope you can join me. We will be covering live the hearing. 10 a.m. Eastern Time is the start of the Oversight Committee hearing on the Minnesota fraud, and then 11 a.m. is the White House press briefing. So we're going to be doing double coverage in the morning. So I hope you can join me in the morning. Okay, so that is it for now. Thanks to our mods. Thanks to you for being here. Thanks so much. We'll keep an eye on what's going on with Greenland. If there's big updates, we'll certainly report on it. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.